G'day chaps, 'tis I, Clownpuncher139, and what the hell have I gotten myself into? In case you aren't aware, I'm the idiot who explained the Batman Arkham Iceberg some time ago in an over 90-minute video that took upwards of a month straight of work to complete. Unbeknownst to me, that was not the completed iceberg. Oh no. Not long after I started working on the original script, the creator of said iceberg, Orange Brought, along with a modder, Derpston P. Derp, created an updated version with over double the number of entries. And now, I'm going to break all of this new information down for all of you, plus any information I missed in the original video. We're in for a long one, chaps, so strap in. Welcome to the Batman Arkham Iceberg Explained, Part 2.
Now let's get this party started.
However, because of how long this video took to make, I needed to get myself a sponsor to make it worthwhile. So please don't click away while I tell you all about Under Lucky Stars. We all love looking into the night sky, right? Spotting the Big Dipper, or maybe Orion, then promptly giving up because you can't see anything beyond it due to light pollution. Well, what if you could see it without ever needing to go outside? That's where Under Lucky Stars comes in. They create star maps showing the unique constellations above a place and time that's important to you. It could be the day you were born, an anniversary with your special someone, or anything in between. As long as you consider it a special day, Under Lucky Stars will get a snapshot of the night sky at a place and time and send it to you. It makes a fantastic gift for those aforementioned special occasions that your loved ones will absolutely adore. And your map is well and truly your own, with tons of customizable features from text to font and color that make it yours. All their maps are NASA certified and they even ship globally, so you won't be alienated no matter where in the world you're watching from. If any of those facts piqued your interest and you want to pick up one of these maps for yourself, you can follow the link in the description to get 10% off your order and help support my channel. Thank you very much, Under Lucky Stars, for sponsoring, and let's finally get to this giant project 2 years in the making. Part 1. The Sky. Kevin Conroy. Mr. Conroy first voiced Batman in 1992's Batman the Animated Series, and for 30 years after that was the most persevering voice of the character. Many actors would come and go from The Dark Knight. Adam West, Diedrich Bader, Michael Keaton, Troy Baker, Christian Bale, Roger Craig Smith, George Clooney, Jason O'Mara, and dozens more. But none of them have been as omnipresent as Kevin Conroy. He has voiced Batman across nearly 60 different pieces of media, including TV shows, movies, and video games, becoming the quintessential voice of the Caped Crusader for multiple generations of Bat fans. He was Batman, which makes it all the more heartbreaking that he passed away on November 10th, 2022, at age 66. His legacy does live on, however, as we have all the incredible work he did over his 30-year career voicing the incredible character. And he was even able to play the character one last time in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Personally speaking, it's heartwarming that his final role released to the public will be in the Arkham universe, because it was this series that introduced me to this incredible man. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy, and thank you for everything you did for all of our childhoods.
I am vengeance.
I am the Knight. I am Batman!
Batmobile. From the very beginning of Arkham Asylum, we have wanted to drive the Batmobile. It existed in Asylum, but we were never allowed to drive it. For 2 more sequels and over 6 years, we hounded Rocksteady to let us drive the Batmobile. And when they finally delivered in Arkham Knight, we complained that the Batmobile was overused trash. If you want too many of my thoughts, watch Everything Actually Wrong with Arkham Knight, but I think this meme explains the fans' reaction best. Batwing. The Batwing appears in every single game, and is actually kind of usable in Arkham Origins. You can't actually fly it, but rather use it as fast travel to get across the city faster. In Asylum, it's used in the outro, as well as to drop off the line launcher in the mid-game, and you can actually see a backup Batwing in the Batcave on Arkham Island. In Arkham City, it drops off the Batsuit on top of Ace Chemicals, and drops the Grapnel Boost upgrade. In Knight, it's constantly dropping things for Batman, like the Batsuit, the spare Batmobile, Batmobile upgrades, and even taking away some of the prisoners. It's basically everywhere, but we never get to fully use it. I mean, not that it would matter, because the cities are all too small to ever really use it on, but the thought is there in Arkham Origins. Asylum Intercom Chime. This chime has become synonymous with the saga. If you don't have these notes memorized by the time you were done with Asylum, I really have to question your mental capacity. There were a few other chimes introduced across the series, like Strange's chime before talking in City,
You are mine, new inmates.
or Scarecrow's whistle in Night. But none of them hit the same as the classic. And also, fun fact, this chime is just a sped up version of the first few notes of the Arkham leitmotif. Good luck getting that out of your heads. Wayne Manor. Wayne Manor makes 3 appearances in the Arkham saga, though only one of them is outside of challenge maps, that being in Arkham Origins Cold Heart. In this DLC, Mr. Freeze and Penguin's goons invade the manor on New Year's Eve to capture Ferris Boyle. This forces Bruce to fight through goons to reach the Batcave entrance in the wine cellar, since his usual entrance is blocked by civilians. When he dons the Batsuit, the thugs have set the manor on fire and taken the civilians hostage. Alfred is able to get the fire under control while Batman pursues Mr. Freeze, and that was the first and last we saw of the manor in this series, at least in a truly playable scenario. The other 2 appearances are in City and Night as challenge maps, which are just that, challenge maps, and are thus not very important. Although the Arkham Knight variation does have an Easter egg mentioned in part 1 of this video. If you interact with the grand piano, the Arkham theme will play, and a hidden wall will reveal itself with a bunch of clues about an ongoing investigation, the most notable being 4-25. This whole board was in reference to the then upcoming Arkham VR, which featured all of these events and this number on Joker's cell at the end of the game. But the number by itself is a reference to Joker's creation date, that being April 25th, 1940. And unfortunately, this was the last we saw of Wayne Manor in the franchise. The Bat Family. We get to play as a good majority of the Bat Family throughout the Arkham saga. The first time was as Tim Drake Robin in Arkham City Harley Quinn's Revenge. This paved the way for a lot more members to be playable in the future. Arkham City also introduced Dick Grayson Nightwing, though only in challenge maps. He had no story mode, unfortunately. Arkham Origins let us play as Dick again, though while he was Robin during events of Arkham Origins Online. Arkham Knight brought both Tim and Dick back, and even allowed them to be played during the main story. However, the most notable additions were Jason Todd as Red Hood and Barbara Gordon as Batgirl in their respective story packs. There are other Bat Family members mentioned that don't make appearances, such as Batwoman, but these are the only playable ones. Batbeard. Despite almost always being clean-shaven, Bruce Wayne has some pretty powerful facial hair follicles. In every Arkham game except for Knight, Bruce's facial hair grows out as the story progresses. In Arkham Asylum, he's got a hint of stubble growing out when he first brings Joker in, but by the finale, he's got a full 5 o'clock shadow on his face. The same is true for Arkham City, though it's much less noticeable since he starts the gameplay completely shaven. In Arkham Origins, he starts the game with some pretty impressive stubble, and only has even more to show by the end. Bruce could really grow out an impressive beard if he wanted to. Oh wait, he did do that in Arkham Origins Initiation. Pretty nice attention to detail showing just how long the nights are going in each game, except for Night, which is kind of ironic since that's the game with all the subtle details. But you can't win them all, I guess. Protocol 10.
Protocol 10 will commence in 5 hours.
Protocol 10 is the unapproved worst-case security measure set in place by Hugo Strange. In the event of inmates attempting to escape and Strange and Tiger failing to subdue them, Protocol 10 will be activated to cull them all. We were teased about Protocol 10 for the entire game, left wondering just what it might be, and when Strange finally unleashes it, you learn it's Batman's worst nightmare. Helicopters are launching missiles all across the city, trying to kill every single prisoner in sight. But what's interesting is that, despite Strange stating to Bruce that Protocol 10 will go forward, and counting down to it every hour throughout the night, he actually had no way of knowing that it would commence. He needed it to be approved by the city council. and then they actually gave him permission. Gordon was on that council, so the possibility of failure was always there, but Strange was so confident that it would work, he left it up to chance. For more info on this, see Strange's One Amazing Scene. Batcaves. There are 3 official Batcaves in the Arkham saga, and a few more unofficial ones. The 3 main ones are in Asylum, Origins, and VR. Asylums is located beneath Arkham Asylum, and is technically just a remote location set up for the worst case contingencies. Meanwhile, Origins and VR have the real deal. Origins had the first fully explorable Batcave, complete with Alfred, a suit wardrobe, a training module, and a work-in-progress Batmobile. However, since it's so early in Batman's career, it doesn't have any of the fun memorabilia the Batcave is known for. But in the end, it's still the Batcave, and even has some story relevance since it ends up wrecked by Bane by the end of the story. It also exists in Arkham VR, and also allows you a little exploration, but is mostly just computers with bios and the like. That said, it's also late career Batman, so has all the Easter eggs people have been yearning for. The unofficial ones, however, are the challenge maps from City and Night. And again, they're just that, challenge maps. In fact, Night is just a slightly up-resed version of the same map from City. While it's cool, it's not nearly as fun as being able to walk through it in the main story. There are other Batcave-like locations, such as the movie studios in Arkham Knight, but these are the actual Batcaves, and thus the only ones that matter. Gadgets.
Batarangs, bat claws, ooh, bat snacks.
Batman certainly has them. We all know them and love them. The Batarang, Batclaw, Explosive Gel, Detective Mode, the Grapple Gun, Line Launcher, Cryptographic Sequencer. They're all classic. Much more to say. Part 2. Tip of the Iceberg. Protocol 11. The worst case scenario for Hugo Strange that blows up the top of Wonder Tower. It's kinda unclear why his worst case is to blow up the tower, but we can guess it has to do with taking down whoever may have attacked and killed him, without leaving his body behind as evidence. Though judging by the fact that the passcode to activate is Wayne, it was probably to kill Batman in the unlikely event Protocol 10 failed. It would have taken down Batman and Ra's al Ghul, but Bruce was able to jump out the window with Ra's in his arms, sending the two tumbling to the ground below. If the stab from Ra's somehow didn't kill Hugo, the explosion most certainly did, so unfortunately, Hugo Strange is dead. Alfred Smalltalk in Arkham Origins. Throughout Arkham Origins, you can return to the Batcave at basically any time and have talks with Alfred. He'll generally have some wise words for Bruce related to the previous events in the story. Sometimes though, he'll talk about his own accomplishments behind the scenes while Bruce was out and about. They're really nice, and definitely strengthen the bond between Bruce and Alfred in this game. Also, can I just mention how much experience these things give you? Just talking to Alfred once gives you 10,000 experience points. Holy crap! Dead Man's Point. Dead Man's Point was a popular suicide location in Arkham Asylum, where inmates would throw themselves from the top of a cliff to the rocks below. Batman ended up saving an inmate from reaching the bottom, and in doing so, found a cave entrance. This cave eventually became the Asylum Batcave, and Dead Man's Point was partially boarded up to prevent inmates from taking their lives. Judging by all the skulls in the area during the events of Asylum, its popularity was certainly warranted. Arkham City Gang War. If you haven't seen my tier list ranking all the Arkham factions, or just didn't pay enough attention while playing Arkham City, you might have missed the massive war going on in the background between the three factions. Penguin, Two-Face, and Joker are in a heated war with one another that impacts the game a lot more than most people probably think. The game starts with the three just kinda existing in their own locations, Penguin in the Bowery and Museum, Two-Face and Park Row in the courthouse, and Joker in the Industrial District and Steel Mill. But throughout the game, each faction makes some heavy plays that change who goes where, who's alive, and so on. Penguin makes the first move, taking over the GCPD in Amusement Mile, but that plan is quickly thwarted by Joker's crew who kills everyone outside and hold this position for the rest of the game. Penguin then cuts off Joker's forces from the rest of Arkham City by blowing up the freeways, sending them into the ocean. After Batman invades the museum, Penguin's crew takes over the subways, but once Penguin is taken out, his crew scatters because they don't really know what to do. In this confusion, Two-Face takes over the Bowery and museum, and Joker's crew wipes out everyone in the subway by taking a separate path through the sewers. This lets Joker's crew make it all the way to the Bowery through the subway, recruiting many of Penguin's crew to their side while killing a bunch of others. But unfortunately, they're never able to make it out of the subway because Two-Face's crew holds their position for the rest of the game. This war is just casually going on in the background while Batman is doing his own thing, and it pretty much explains every combat encounter and event that happens to some degree. It's really cool that this goes on, but nobody really cares because it's kinda irrelevant to the main plot. But it helps flesh out the world so much and gives it so much personality. I Am the Night mode in Arkham Origins. I Am the Night is a mode exclusive to Batman Arkham Origins that unlocks after beating New Game Plus. It's a new difficulty setting that plays the same as New Game Plus, but with one special caveat. You have one life. If you die at all, you go all the way back to the beginning of the game. And on the hardest difficulty, that's a lot to ask. I only just recently beat it while streaming here on YouTube, and I have to say, it was one of the hardest challenges I have ever beaten. And by the way, everyone who beat it by cheesing and resetting every time you were close to death, you are very not poggers. You're quite cringe. Jingle Bells, Batman Smells. In Arkham Origins, some characters will sing the iconic Jingle Bells parody song, Jingle Bells, Batman Smells. Most notably, the Joker during the return to Blackgate, and a Blackgate escapee when he's being apprehended.
Jingle bells! Batman smells!
No.
This is in reference, of course, to the iconic song, which itself is a reference to the animated series. The second ever episode, for that matter, in which Joker sings a song many of us know.
Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. The Batmobile lost the wheel, and the Joker got away.
However, Joker in Origins sings a slightly altered version.
Jingle bells, Batman smells, Gotham's quite a mess. Blackgate's fine and you're out of time, which means you'll soon be dead.
It's a fun reference to a classic song that kids just kinda pick up for some reason. We never really know why. Paulie's Diner. This diner is the location seen at the beginning of Arkham Knight, where Scarecrow releases his toxin. The diner's name is a reference to famous Batman writer Paul Dini, who previously wrote Arkham Asylum and City, but was not asked to return for Arkham Knight. And we all see how that went. You can actually find the abandoned diner on Miyagani Island at this location here. This is important because there's a Riddler trophy hidden here, and it's also just fun to see where all this actually started. Most games would have had the incident occur somewhere else entirely, on a completely different island, but Arkham Knight actually lets you see it firsthand. PlayStation exclusive content. To my dismay as an Xbox player, there's a lot of PlayStation exclusive content in this saga. Right away in Arkham Asylum, we have the aforementioned Joker challenge maps, which were PlayStation exclusive until Return to Arkham. I'm aware you can play them on Xbox in the remastered version. I'm not getting that terrible version, please stop telling me. In Arkham Knight, we have some more challenge maps as well as a whole mode, Scarecrow's Nightmare, which were racetracks fused with a boss fight. These things have an amazing aesthetic, but I'm sure they also suck because it's yet another tank fight. And as you'd expect, there's a ton of cosmetics that are exclusive to PlayStation, but I don't care about those, so I'm not going to talk about them. I hate that there are console exclusives at all, and that Xbox didn't even get anything over PlayStation, but whatever. It's all behind us now, so hopefully they won't keep it up in Suicide Squad.
Exclusively on PlayStation 3.
First Joker hallucination. While many of us would assume Batman's first Joker hallucination occurred here in Arkham Knight, it actually occurred all the way back in Arkham City at the end of the Mr. Freeze fight. Ever wondered why this happened out of nowhere and was never really explained? It's because Joker began infecting Batman's subconscious all the way back here. In a way, also being the first hint towards the Joker infection we would later see in Arkham Knight. Joker's blood began changing Batman this early into the infection. It just took a lot of waiting and a little bit of fear toxin that would eventually set Joker free on Halloween. Batman Arkham videos. The quintessential maker of Batman Arkham footage. This channel absolutely dominated during the peak of Arkham hype and is still around making high quality videos to this day. The person behind this channel is absolutely incredible at these games and tends to have very impressive gameplay, generally taking no damage and dropping no combos ever. At the same time as walkthroughs, they do Easter egg videos, breaking down just about everything I talked about in this and the previous Iceberg. Unedited playthroughs, even today providing great non-speedrun footage. And of course, riddle explanations, where they find all the trophies, breakable objects, and riddles for every single area, making them much easier for casual players to find. Be honest, how many of you went to the channel because you couldn't find one trophy even with Riddler's hint? They've been an exceptional help in getting me stock footage for both Iceberg videos, and helping many of us actually complete these games. Let's give a massive round of applause to this nameless hero. How about it? Cape physics. During the development of Arkham Asylum, a single lonely animator was responsible for making Batman's cape feel authentic. This unsung hero created over 200 unique animations over the span of just over a year, all by themselves. And they did such a good job that, as far as I know, all the animations were reused down the line and only added to as the games progressed. So, whoever this incredible animator is, wherever they are in the world, we salute you. The games would not be as incredible as they are without your incredible cape physics. Original Animated Series Cast. In Arkham Asylum, there are 3 actors from the original Batman animated series reprising their iconic roles. Those are the aforementioned Kevin Conroy for Batman, Arlene Sorkin for Harley Quinn, and Mark Hamill for the Joker.
I was so close, Alfred, I could smell his sweat. From now on, Tony Zuko gets my undivided attention.
He surrendered almost without a fight. I don't like it.
All 3 played arguably the best and most famous versions of these characters to date, so it's great to see the Asylum team paying them due respect and casting them again.
I'm crazy enough to take on Batman, but the IRS, no, thank you.
If I see you trying to follow me, he dies.
However, Sorkin was dropped as Harley in each subsequent game, being replaced by Tara Strong, because Sorkin decided to retire the character.
I just want to say, if there was no Batman, there'd be no Joker, and I'd never have met my puddin'. Thank you, Batman. I know, you're shocked. Come and get me, Bats. I double dare ya.
Unfortunate that she stopped after only the first game, but it was great to see her here either way. Conroy and Hamill would be temporarily replaced in Arkham Origins by Roger Craig Smith and Troy Baker respectively, to play younger versions of the characters, but both came back one last time for Arkham Knight. It's great seeing legacy characters continuously reprising their roles for these incredible characters, even if it is only 3 amongst a much larger cast. Part 3. Into the Water. Amanda Waller. Waller is the creator of Task Force X, aka the Suicide Squad, and she makes a few small appearances in the Arkham saga. Most notably is during the end credit scene of Arkham Origins, where she tries recruiting Deathstroke to her cause. After that, we see that she's the one who orchestrated the events of Arkham Origins Blackgate, being the one to cause the outbreak to gather new recruits. She also plays a big part in Assault on Arkham, the Arkham tie-in movie, being the one to send the squad into Arkham Asylum. She possibly dies at the end of that movie, but is seen kicking by the time we get to Kill the Justice League, where she recruits the Suicide Squad to do exactly what the name implies. Overall, she doesn't have a very big presence in the saga, contrary to her large appearance, but we'll see how that changes with Kill the Justice League. Pop culture references. Quote from the Iceberg creator himself, "It was my attempt at covering all these small superhero/comic references in one entry, like Queen Industries or John Constantine's shop in Night. In other words, all those little Easter eggs that you see covered on channels that aren't mine. At this point, you've definitely seen the videos, so I'll quickly list a few examples. Wonder Woman's logo on this building in Arkham Knight, this shop's logo in Wonder City representing Gentleman Ghost, Gorilla Grodd having a cell in Iron Heights, and tons more that I don't have the patience to list. You've probably seen the videos, and if you haven't, you'll probably get some recommendations for them after watching this. Requiem for a Killer. This is an achievement giving for defeating Killer Croc in the Iceberg Lounge challenge map of Arkham Knight. Sometime after the player achieves 1,000,000 points, Killer Croc will jump into the arena and reenact his boss fight from beneath the surface. Nightwing will jump in himself to make the fight actually possible, and defeating Croc will give the player the achievement, and you can then play the rest of the map with Nightwing. You'd think it'd be easy stuff, but it's really not. Good luck. Arkham VR is a dream. Simple as that. The events don't actually happen. Basically, VR takes place the night before Scarecrow's first attack, and shows all of Batman's fears coming to fruition. His allies dying at his own hands, and him becoming the Joker, being locked in the asylum like he was. This is further proof that Joker wasn't activated by the fear toxin in Ace, rather he was amplified. Joker has been in Bruce's head for the past 9 months, slowly creeping to the surface, showing him what he fears most with each passing night, and also subtly influencing him to add lethal weapons to the Batmobile. And wouldn't you know that on the very next night, he'd be set free. Arkham City inmates were all freed. In the Arkham Knight story Fallout, it is revealed that after Arkham City was shut down, all the prisoners, including all the supercriminals, were granted parole hearings that all went one way: freedom. Since they were illegally held in Arkham City and were almost murdered by Hugo Strange, they began working with Hell's Gate to start winning hundreds of legal cases. We'll talk about them in a second. All prisoners were granted ultimately unnecessary parole hearings because they were all let go, given that they signed a declaration to be on their best behavior upon doing so. The irony in this event is that the opposite outcome you'd expect ends up happening. Crime goes down in Gotham, as Gordon himself says in his speech at the beginning of Arkham Knight. As for specifically why, we don't really know. But maybe many of those prisoners really were reformed and wanted to be reintegrated with society. Backing up to Hell's Gate, on top of being a legal service, they're also a waste disposal company that hires former convicts. That's why you see so many thugs in Night wearing their uniforms and so many of their garbage trucks during Two-Face's robberies. It all started because of Arkham City and all those inmates being set free. The Ghost in Grey. This iconic poster can be seen all over the place in Arkham Knight, and is a reference to a classic episode of the animated series. In said episode, the Grey Ghost was Bruce Wayne's childhood hero, a classic show he would watch growing up before his parents' death. This vigilante character helped shape many aspects of Batman, most notably the cape and cowl. In the episode in question, a mad bomber reenacts an episode of the Grey Ghost, causing the actor who played the ghost to don his costume once more and help Batman in solving the case.
Hey, I owed you. You got me my outfit back.
There's of course a lot of other stuff because this is the GOAT that is the animated series, but the important part is how much the Ghost meant to Bruce, and how much of an impact he made even just pretending to be a hero. So it's pretty cool Rocksteady included a nod to this famous episode in Arkham Knight, implying the events of this episode happened in the Arkhamverse as well.
The Grey Ghost was my hero.
So it wasn't all for nothing.
Deadshot in Arkham City intro. As Bruce Wayne walks through the Arkham City Processing Center, he sees some familiar faces. The obvious one is Black Mask being neutralized by some Tiger Guards in the background. However, there's one more in line A. As the guard at the end tells the prisoners to move, one stays in place and talks to Bruce for a bit. At this point, we all know the speech, and iconic bang at the end.
Bang!
This isn't for nothing. It's meant to tell us that this is Deadshot, being processed at the same time as Bruce. He says Bruce is on his list, which we later learn he meant literally. He was on Hugo Strange's hit list of various political prisoners. And it's actually quite funny that Deadshot shows up here, because players going fast enough will see a credit appear at the perfect time for a tiny bit of irony. That being Will Smith. No relation to the actor who just so happened to play Deadshot and is currently famous for a slap, but it is funny that someone with the same name worked on Arkham City and has his credit appear at the same time as the player first encounters Deadshot. Massive, completely unintended coincidence, but very funny nonetheless. Arkham Asylum and Arkham City World Records. This is actually not in reference to speedruns. Since it's specifically pointing out Arkham Asylum and City, it's actually referring to the two making it into the Guinness Book of World Records for being the most critically acclaimed superhero games. When Arkham Asylum released, it gained the record, only to be usurped 2 years later by its own successor, Arkham City. which is pretty cool. Though I don't really know why Guinness decided to highlight this specific aspect of them, since ratings are so subjective and it's not like being highly acclaimed is worthy of that much praise. And according to Guinness's website, this was only based off of 33 reviews when it was submitted, so like, what the hell is the criteria for this? When Spider-Man 2 comes out, the second someone releases a positive review, it's gonna be the most critically acclaimed superhero game and game period, with 100%. Is there a time requirement or something? This record honestly doesn't make any sense, and especially with all the recent reviews coming out for Arkham City over the years that rate it rather negatively, I highly doubt this record is still in place. Arkham Asylum bios are non-canon. Multiple biographies from Arkham Asylum were rendered non-canon by the events of Arkham City, more specifically Hugo Strange, Hush, and Jack Ryder. Strange and Hush makes sense. Strange was just a regular doctor in Arkham Asylum at this point in the timeline. He hadn't revealed his mad side until Arkham City began construction and he was put in charge. He also didn't discover Bruce Wayne's identity until the events of Arkham City either. And similarly, Hush didn't steal Bruce Wayne's identity until the events of Arkham City. Meanwhile, this bio implies otherwise. Jack Ryder is a bit confusing though, because it mentions the Creeper, someone we'll go into a little while later. But yeah, these bios are rendered non-canon by the existence of Arkham City and Knight. Furthermore, the artwork depicting these characters is not representative of them at all. Jack appears to be wearing clothes inspired by the Creeper's look, Hush seems to be wearing an armored suit with lots of weapons attached, and Strange is oddly buff and wearing regular civilian clothing rather than a lab coat. Ultimately, I'm glad they just said screw it and rendered them non-canon to work these stories into later games, rather than just trying to work around them and leave everything intact. It's a much better strategy in my opinion. Kevin leaked Arkham Knight. This might be the funniest entry in the whole video. During a Comic-Con panel a few years ago, Kevin told a great story about how he accidentally leaked Arkham Knight way before it was even announced. While I'd love to just let the man speak, I don't want to just copy-paste the video, so I'll have to summarize and let him chime in occasionally.
Once it's done and you see what you've done, you think, oh, yeah, I gave to that. That's my voice in there. I made that work. But the process is like, root canal.
So, the recording process for Arkham Knight took a grueling 2 years, because they had to record 157,000 lines of dialogue. The reason Arkham Origins even exists is because they needed so much time just to record dialogue, and the reason none of the original cast came back was because they were just too busy recording for Arkham Knight. With that in mind, during a 2013 Comic-Con, Kevin was asked if he was in the next Arkham game, to which he began wondering,
They didn't even tell us about Origins. I didn't even know about Origins. I was asked about it at a panel. Oh, are you in the next Arkham game? And I said, has that been announced?
So he accidentally revealed that he was in the next one, thinking they were talking about Arkham Knight. And when he heard the name Arkham Origins, he was very confused and very worried. This led to a whole legal battle with WB and him almost getting banned from going to cons. But the compromise was him having someone constantly over his shoulder telling him to shut up if sensitive information could be brought up. Frankly, the easier solution would have just been to give Kevin a small role in Arkham Origins so he wouldn't be lying, but ultimately this is funnier, so we'll accept it. But yeah, Kevin accidentally leaked the existence of Arkham Knight before Arkham Origins was even released. Watch the full story for yourself if you want a good laugh, link in the description.
They said, oh, that's so cool, Arkham Origins. And I went, Arkham what? And then they said, which game are you talking about?
The Flying Graysons. The Flying Graysons are a famous acrobat family known all over Gotham, and by the name are the family of Dick Grayson, aka Nightwing.
Hey, Oz. You remember the Flying Graysons?
Flying who? What are you on about?
Flying Graysons. The greatest acrobats in the world.
Shut up, you fairy.
Whenever they performed in that circus, there was magic in the air.
They performed all kinds of death-defying trapeze acts without a safety net, and this fact would sadly catch up with them. During one fateful performance, their lines were tampered with, and Dick's parents fell to their deaths, leaving him orphaned. Bruce Wayne brought him under his cape as his adoptive son and eventual apprentice. Dick would of course be the first Robin and eventually graduate into Nightwing. Flying Grayson references are slim in the Arkham franchise. The most we get is a poster in Arkham City that acts as a riddle, and Dick using their story as a distraction when he's held up at gunpoint by Penguin, hence why I had to pull all my footage from the animated series. Although one interesting fact we do know is that these events take place in the short time between Arkham Origins and Origins Online, which is actually a relatively short time and might break a bit of continuity, because Dick is usually a child during these events, not meant to be much older than Bruce was when his parents were killed. Meanwhile, he's got to be at least 15 by the time we see him in Origins Online to be looking like this and putting himself in this much danger, which is pretty odd. Origins Online takes place only about 2 years after base Origins, meaning Dick was probably 13 at the youngest when his parents were killed, which is a bit older than usual. But at the same time, it's Batman logic, so who really cares about consistency? Owen's fate is up to the player. The opening scene of Arkham Knight doesn't change much depending on how you play it. However, what does change is the fate of the officer you play as, Owens. If you shoot anyone in the diner, Owens will be a lot worse for wear when you see him later in the GCPD. The cops keeping an eye on him will mention how he'll end up losing his badge after this is all over, despite not being in control of his actions. However, if you don't shoot anyone, those same cops will note that it's amazing he got out of there without shooting anyone. During the endgame after capturing Scarecrow, you can see Owens sitting by himself admiring his badge. It's really sad if you did shoot someone because you just ruined the life of this good guy who lives for his job. He's now got PTSD for life and is probably going to be blacklisted from ever joining another police force again. And it was all because of your control at the start of the game. Penguin's monocle. It's not a monocle at all. It's the end of a bottle that was broken and shoved into his eye. At some point in the past, Penguin tried to have it removed, but the doctor couldn't do it. At this point, he likes it because it adds character and doesn't want to bother removing it. I very much agree with you, Oswald. The bottle is a much more interesting piece of characterization than a dinky old monocle would have been. This makes Arkham Penguin stand out more than most other interpretations in popular media, and makes me like him a lot more. You can tell Robin Oracle is alive. You can also tell him that she's dead. After the Harley arc in the movie studios, Batman locks Tim in a cell. After doing this before leaving to face the night again, you can tell Tim that Barbara is dead, because at this point, Bruce still thinks he's committed unalive.
Tim, there's something you need to know. Something's happened.
No. Not her. Don't say it.
She's dead. I'm sorry.
Let me out.
I can't. They're targeting everyone close to me. I won't let them get you as well.
Bruce, please. I have to do this.
No.
You son of a bitch! How dare you! You don't get to decide! Get away from me! Go!
However, after rescuing her from the Night HQ and removing the militia from the clock tower, you can go back to Tim and tell him she's okay.
I found Barbara. She's fine.
This is the only time you can do this because the moment you go back to the GCPD, you enter the endgame and Tim is kidnapped by Scarecrow. It's already a heartbreaking moment to tell him Barbara is dead, but it's even harder when you tell her she's alive, because there are no words spoken in the latter. Tim just calmly breaks down as a wave of confusion, relief, and maybe joy set in. But there's also the idea that he's in complete disbelief and thinks Joker completely took over Bruce here and is just messing with him. So he's just left waiting and wondering, is she actually okay, or was that first statement actually true? You never really know, but it's heartbreaking to watch Tim's reaction either way. He's right behind me? At this point, the clips are infamous. In Arkham Knight, you can stand right behind an enemy with a detective mode tracker, and when the tracker has completely traced you, they'll be confused and think it's malfunctioning, since you definitely shouldn't be right behind them. But they'll turn around, see you, and be scared so you can take them out. It's a great detail Rocksteady didn't need to add, but it adds a lot of character to the militia troops, who otherwise are sorely lacking it.
Got a lock, he's right behind me.
Extreme isolation. Extreme Isolation is a location in Arkham Asylum where all the most dangerous criminals are locked up, and is notable as being one of the only places Batman can't ever access in Arkham Asylum. The closest we get to seeing it in the main games is when fighting the prototype Titan, as he was locked in an extreme isolation cell before being released by Joker. After the fight, Joker then goes into the area himself to escape Batman. The only other look we get is in Arkham Knight, as Batman locks Joker away in one of these cells at the end of the game to free his mind. It's implied this is where Joker is always locked when he's sent to Arkham. That would make sense given he's the most dangerous criminal out there. We do get a possible peek into what the chamber looks like in a DLC challenge map in Asylum Heart of Darkness, as well as the finale of Arkham Knight when Batman locks Joker in the extreme isolation cell. Dead body in Calendar Man's cell. Visiting Calendar Man on all of his required days, or more accurately, setting your system clock to all the necessary dates and talking to Calendar Man 12 times to get the achievement, will trigger a rare event. Leaving the courthouse, then going back to visit him again, will present you with no sign of Julian Day, but instead a dead Two-Face thug hanged in the cell. So, yeah, Calendar Man escapes after Arkham City, which is part of the reason why he appears at Wayne Manor during the Nightfall ending, because nobody caught him. The Ghost. In the post-story DLCs for Arkham Knight, such as Red Hood and Flip of a Coin, you can hear thugs talking about a mysterious new ghost haunting Gotham since Batman died.
Hey, where's Johnny? Ghost got him a few days back, down by the dock. God's sake, guys, I'm sick of hearing about this ghost. There ain't no ghost, okay?
This is of course in reference to the demon bat we see at the end of the true Nightfall ending. This is pretty interesting because it shows that it wasn't just a cool final shot for the game to end on. It was real. There's some new Batman-like vigilante terrorizing the criminals of Gotham. We'll go more in depth on what this means in a later entry, but just keep this in mind. This demonic figure is indeed real, and it is absolutely hunting down criminals. Batman cosplay breaks world record. This isn't technically related to the Arkham franchise, but may as well talk about it. In 2016, a man named Keith created a Batman cosplay that broke the world record for the most usable gadgets on a single cosplay, with 30 unique usable gadgets on his utility belt. He's got everything like flares, a bolas, extendable baton, and even his own shuriken-like batarangs. The costume isn't strictly meant to be Arkham Batman, though he did say he was inspired from Arkham Origins, but it's certainly impressive nonetheless. Arkham Knight voicemail messages. In Arkham Knight, you can peruse around Mr. Fox's office and find a telephone. On that phone, you can listen to voicemails from various characters wanting to talk to Bruce. First is from Vicky Vale, trying to call about what was probably a hit piece article in the news about Bruce. She says she had nothing to do with it and to blame Ryder, but then says that she misses Bruce, implying that the two were dating around this point in the story. This goes in tandem with a message from her in Arkham VR, where she says she missed him at the gala the previous night. Although VR is just a dream as we established, it implies even his subconscious is thinking about Vicky, meaning she must be close to him in some way. Second is a girl only referred to as Cassie. Avid comic readers jump to this being Cassandra Cain, also known as the eventual heir to Batgirl, but that's very unlikely. Why would an eventual member of the Bat family be calling Bruce and suggesting that they hooked up with one another, and that she has friends willing to hook up as well? From my limited research, that doesn't sound like her, especially since she ends up being Bruce's adopted daughter. That would be kinda creepy if that was the case. So this is probably just some random woman Bruce called on to keep up his Playboy aesthetic to the public, unfortunate as the Easter egg hunters may be crying. Third is a call from Lex Luthor, talking about business! He wants to acquire Wayne Tech's Applied Sciences division. He thinks Bruce is just flat out ignoring his offer rather than having a busy schedule, and keeps trying to persuade him to sell. Even without the fact that Lex is a bad guy, we all know Bruce ain't gonna sell. He's got too much invested in his sciences to just sell it, even for a clean $1 billion.
A man of your refined taste doesn't need an Applied Sciences division after all. He needs another $1 billion.
Last is a call from Kate Kane, also known as Batwoman. And really quick side note, this is confusing, but we just talked about the potential of Cassie being Cassandra Cain, and now we're talking about Kate Kane. These two are completely unrelated to each other and have their last names spelt differently, which I didn't know while reading up on it, and was very confusing until I started looking into the Bat family tree. Comic writers, please make better choices when naming your characters, because this was just mean. Anyway, Kate is calling about her upcoming wedding and making sure Bruce is coming. While it sounds like any other familial check-in call, it's also telling all of us how Bruce is looking to the rest of the world. He's becoming a lot more secluded, to the point that nobody's seen him in months, and Kate notes how Bruce himself tells everyone how important it is to keep up appearances, which shows a couple of things. Not only does it tell us that Kate is canonically Batwoman at this point in time, which makes me wonder why the hell she isn't helping tonight, but it shows that she understands what Bruce is going through and knows he needs to get it together before his identity is compromised. If Bruce Wayne is a shadowed recluse and Batman is practically dead inside, people are eventually going to put the two pieces together. It's a pretty fascinating side to Bruce that I wish we got to see a little more of during gameplay. Also, it's a bit of an unintended callback to Joker's line at the end of Arkham City.
No one's seen you in months, Bruce, and you taught me the importance of keeping up appearances.
Let's just say, at times like these, it's important to keep up appearances.
And as with everything else in Arkham Knight, our final calls are tasteless jokes from the Joker where he imitates the Wayne parents, only to break down laughing.
Bruce, this is your father calling. It's time we had a talk, son. You know, about the dressing up.
Cause, yeah, it is pretty funny.
I just want to say... oh, sorry. It's so funny, you know, because they're dead.
These calls are a nice inclusion because they really expand the world and give us a bit of insight into the 9 months we've been away. Very nice touch, Rocksteady. Part 4. Deeper into the Water. The King Bat. Among Alfred's aforementioned wisdom in Arkham Origins is a running conflict with a large bat he finds in the Batcave. Alfred discovers it while Bruce is out in the city and becomes quite terrified of the large beast. Throughout the night, he keeps tabs on it, occasionally trying to make peace with it, and eventually he's able to come to an understanding with the king. Alfred doesn't bother it doesn't bother him, though would certainly not be opposed to some food every now and again. I'm sure there's a hidden metaphor somewhere in there related to Batman, but I'm frankly not smart enough to see it. Also, we see the King Bat in the opening cutscene to Arkham Origins, so there you go. The Killing Joke. The Killing Joke is an infamous Batman comic at this point that really needs no introduction, so I'll instead go over its references in the franchise. Most notable is watching the main event play out, where we see Joker shoot Barbara Gordon in a nightmare sequence in Arkham Knight. He doesn't perfectly replicate the scene though because they aren't trying to. It's meant to be an interpretation / Batman's understanding of the events and how they took place. Plus, they needed to keep this game appropriate for a majority of audiences, and going through with all the things we see in The Killing Joke would push this game way away from that. They would have needed to get really creative with their censorship to do a perfect recreation. In Arkham Origins, we get another reference to the comic as we see a dramatized version of Joker's One Bad Day, Red Hood and all. It's a seriously altered interpretation of events, almost a more Joker-esque way of looking at things with all the funfair stuff, but it's certainly cool it exists. Also, slightly earlier in Arkham Origins, we get a line from Joker about where he got all his supplies for the death trap in the hotel.
Did I get all of this, you ask? Well, I got a great deal on an out-of-service amusement park. Oh, you should have seen the look on the real estate agent's face when we shook hands on the deal.
This is a direct reference to when Joker acquires a rundown amusement park in The Killing Joke and murders the former owner. One of the most missed references, however, occurs in Joker's interview tapes in Arkham City, where he recounts the Killing Joke origin story to Hugo Strange.
Have you ever tried to walk with an enormous fishbowl on your head? Don't answer that.
When Hugo doubts his tale, Joker notes how he likes to keep it multiple choice, another allusion to The Killing Joke.
If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. A wise man once told me that if you have to have an origin story, you're better off making it multiple choice.
One that almost everyone has probably missed occurs in Arkham Asylum. If you go to the Visitor Center before the finale, you can have some therapy sessions with Joker. One of them starts with a very well-known Killing Joke reference.
There were these two guys in a lunatic asylum. Oh, hell, you've heard that one before, haven't you?
This is, of course, in reference to the finale of The Killing Joke, where Joker tells Batman a joke.
See, there were two guys locked in a lunatic asylum. And one night they decided they didn't like that anymore. They decided to escape. So they made it up to the roof, and there, just across this narrow gap, they see rooftops stretching across town, stretching to freedom. Now, the first guy, he jumps right across, no problem. But his friend, oh, no way. He's afraid of falling. So the first guy, he has an idea. He says, hey, I got this flashlight with me. I'll shine it across the gap between the buildings, and you can walk across the beam and join me. But the second guy says, what do you think I am, crazy? You just turn it off when I'm halfway across.
This is an iconic scene that both readers and non-readers know very well. The common interpretation of this scene is that Batman kills Joker as the two laugh, but the Arkhamverse thinks otherwise. Since, Joker is alive, it implies that this scene played out, but Batman and Joker simply laughed and called it a night. It's really fun that Rocksteady put this in, but kind of a shame it's in such an obscure spot that many players have no doubt missed. The references are overall small, but certainly impactful on the plot, implying that the Killing Joke events, at least in some capacity, have occurred in this universe. Joe Chill. Joe Chill is the man who killed the Waynes. He's never been named in the main Arkham franchise, though has shown up in many of the games. His silhouette can be seen during the flashback scene of Arkham Origins, and a warped version of his voice is supposedly heard during the second Scarecrow hallucination of Arkham Asylum.
Please, there's no need for this. Stay where you are.
However, most notably, he fully appears during the prologue for Arkham VR, where you get to experience the Wayne's murder firsthand from the perspective of young Bruce. Interestingly though, since this is a dream, we get a unique interaction with Joe not seen before, where he talks with Bruce instead of immediately running away. It's very creepy and disturbing, but perfectly in line for this series, and especially for Arkham VR.
You see that, kid? That's what happens when you try to be a hero.
Permanent snow in Arkham Knight. If you have the Season of Infamy DLC in Arkham Knight, there's a simple way you can make the weather permanently snowy. All you have to do is complete everything in the main game and Season of Infamy, and specifically save Mr. Freeze's mission for last. If you can do this, then complete said mission, snow will forever fall over Gotham. The reason this happens is because the weather is supposed to change back to normal when you go into or complete another mission. But since you don't have any other missions to play, the snow will permanently fall. Now, there's nothing you can really do with this since you're in a completed save file, but, it's fun, I guess. I mean, hell, I accidentally did it in both of my Arkham Knight save files, so yeah, there's that. Joker Gas Death Scene. In Arkham Asylum, you can die a good many ways, but one that a lot of people manage to avoid because of button prompts is dying in Joker Toxin. If you somehow manage to not press the grapple button in time and succumb to the gas, Batman will die a horrific death where you hear him laughing as he chokes to death. If Joker Toxin wasn't scary enough, seeing Batman fall to it is horrifying. Hearing Kevin Conroy laugh as Batman slowly dies and the screen fades away is genuinely creepy, and is exactly what Batman said would happen if anyone was caught in Joker Toxin. Scarecrow's original mask in Arkham Knight. You know that riddle in Arkham City where you can scan Scarecrow's asylum mask at the top of this bridge? Well, somehow that mask made its way all the way to Ace Chemicals. There it is, just sitting on the floor of the central mixing chamber. Does it have a reason to be there? No, not really. Should it be there at all, considering the circumstances? Also no. That's it, that's all I got. Moving on! Joker referencing Jason in Arkham City challenge maps. In the Joker's Carnival challenge map of Arkham Asylum, there's a small line of dialogue where Joker hints at Jason Todd. To hear it, you specifically need to play as Robin, and in doing so, Joker will say,
What? Didn't I kill you already? No? Well, there's always time, right? Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Robin!
Obviously, this is Tim Drake's Robin, and since he's the third Robin, that means Joker killed the previous one, Jason Todd. Up until Arkham Knight, this was the only significant reference to Jason in the entire saga. There are others people theorize could be Jason references, like when Joker tells Batman he could use a new sidekick in Asylum, but this is the only one that's widely agreed upon. Tiger guards are never terrified. Well, that's not entirely true. Tiger Guards never become terrified like normal henchmen. Most thugs will go from calm to nervous to terrified as you take out their buddies in Predator sections. Tiger Guards, though, are an exception, as they'll never enter this terrified state, even when they're the only one left. However, this fact isn't entirely true, because Tiger Guards can be terrified if you take them down. Specifically, if you hang them upside down via an inverted takedown or ledge takedown. While they're hanging, struggling to stay conscious, they will be terrified, which is pretty understandable given their current situation. But other than that very specific circumstance, they will never be terrified because they're brainwashed and perfectly trained by Hugo Strange to kill Batman. Animated series head icon in Arkham Knight. While roaming Gotham in Arkham Knight, you may come across some AR challenges strewn about the city. Well, the icon used to represent these challenges is actually Batman's head, specifically the head for the animated series suit from Arkham City. While the suit itself doesn't make an appearance, it lives on in spirit through this little Easter egg. 0539 passcode meaning. 0539 is the code Batman inputs on the soundstage keypad while going after Johnny Charisma, and is actually shorthand for a date, May 1939, which is the first time Batman appeared in the comics. A simple reference to be sure, but a welcome one. Imposter Deadshot. This is a point of contention among the fanbase that is probably going to get some people riled up, so no matter your opinion on the matter, please be respectful in the comments if you wish to address it. As we know, Deadshot is one of the playable characters in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which is a game taking place in the Arkham universe. Except, he might not be. See, in the Arkham series, Deadshot, as he appears in Arkham City, Arkham Origins Blackgate, and Assault on Arkham, is white. This is consistent with almost all comic appearances. However, Deadshot in Kill the Justice League is black. Truth be told, we don't know why Rocksteady made this change, but as Occam's Razor tell us, the simplest solution is often the correct one. They were most likely trying to create a connection that a wider audience would understand. Right now, the general public knows Deadshot thanks to Will Smith playing him in the 2016 Suicide Squad film. And from what interviews have told us, Warner Bros. Cast him to play Deadshot just because they wanted him for the character. I mean, fair enough, he was probably the best character in that movie, but does Rocksteady really want to associate themselves, even indirectly, with a film that practically nobody likes? It didn't exactly flop, but was and still is panned by critics and audiences alike. So changing the race of an established character who was right there doesn't seem like the best move. At the very least, they have offered an in-universe explanation for the discrepancy, stating that the original Deadshot was an imposter, who was killed behind the scenes by the real Deadshot, who then stole all of his equipment and returned to his life of crime. So then, where has this real Deadshot been the entire time? Why, and in fact, how did it take him over 10 years to resurface and kill the Faker? And how was this Faker so successful for a whole decade, not arousing any suspicion from anyone for being the wrong race if he wasn't the real thing? Some clients are very particular when hiring hitmen. If they see a discrepancy, they shoot on sight. And then this supposed Faker has just been around for Batman's entire career, meaning the real guy would have been active years before Batman even showed up, which is even more absurd. It honestly doesn't make a lot of sense, especially since Amanda Waller took the fake Deadshot into the squad at the end of Origins Blackgate, meaning the Faker was probably working for her for years before just suddenly getting replaced by the real guy. Hell, we see the Faker working for her in Assault on Arkham. What part of any of this makes sense? Truth be told, it just doesn't, and I'm really not sure how to feel about it. If they did the opposite and had this new Deadshot be a Faker who killed the previous guy as a way to succeed him, I think that would make a lot more sense. It would still be a bit of a cop-out, but would make more sense than the multiple logic leaps we need to make for the real guy to just be missing all these years. I'm personally fine with the recast. I think Bumper Robinson is going to do just as good a job as Chris Cox. I just wish they did a better job with the lore explanation. What are y'all's takes on this? But again, be respectful. Cancelled Batmobile Edition. This was a cancelled collector's edition of Arkham Knight, which was announced to be cancelled just 5 days before the game launched. It was meant to include a copy of the game, some skins, an art book, a comic, and a transforming Batmobile statue that could switch between pursuit and battle mode with a remote control. The cancellation is believed to be attributed to the company in charge of these Batmobile statues, Project Triforce. They did not put out the quality products that were expected of them. The Batmobiles would sometimes disconnect from their remotes and some of the functions would jam. Not wanting to have poor quality products associated with their game, the collaboration was canned and the collection as a whole was cancelled. Project Triforce went out of business a few years ago, by the way, so it looks like this wasn't their only shortcoming as a company. Despite not being released, some copies of the Batmobile edition could still be found in online marketplaces, so some of these Batmobiles do exist in the world. It's incredibly unlikely anyone would be selling it if they had it, and even if they did, they'd probably charge thousands of dollars, but they are out there somewhere. Definitely a shame because, seriously, this statue is awesome. Dead Tiger Guard was in Arkham City trailer. In the cinematic trailer for Arkham City that introduced Hugo Strange, we see him interrogating a Tiger officer by injecting him with various serums. At the end of the trailer, we see the guard passing away, but we can still see his body during the events of the main game. In the processing center, enter this door and you'll be able to scan this guard's body as a riddle. This guard is the same one we saw in the trailer, though it's unknown why Hugo has left his body here for presumably days at this point instead of having it disposed of. We know he has the resources to dispose of bodies due to his relationship with Penguin, so getting rid of this body should be a non-issue. I guess this guard has some kind of brain experiments going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. That checks out for Strange's character, so let's just say that's it and move on. The Penguin caused Zsasz to go insane. In Arkham City, one of the side quests has Batman listening to phone calls from Zsasz to try and track him. These phone calls give us an in-depth look at Zsasz's backstory, specifically of his first kill. And of course, who could forget this great line?
My money! My money!
As we trudge through the story, we eventually learn that part of the reason Zsasz lost his marbles was because of Penguin. Here's the scenario. His parents were dead, and he was rich. Sound familiar? Only instead of using his wealth for good, Zsasz spent his in the casino. He would go to the Iceberg Lounge every night and would absolutely kill it at the Texas Hold'em tables. He kept winning and winning until he eventually made his way to the owner's table. The owner, of course, being Penguin. Zsasz thought he would play fair, but he was sorely mistaken. He had a great hand, 4 of a kind sixes, very difficult to beat. Penguin looked nervous at first, but then laughed and laid his cards down one at a time.
A 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, a damn 7!
His straight flush annihilated Zsasz's 4 of a kind, and Zsasz was broke. This led him to getting kicked out of the lounge and eventually led to his first kill. It's unfortunate that this happened to Zsasz, but is a valuable lesson for all you up-and-coming gamblers out there. No matter how much you pray to RNGesus, the house always wins. Play responsibly, folks. Or better yet, don't play at all. Catwoman in South Africa. During the Wayne Manor section of Arkham VR, you can find various postcards scattered around the room from SK, also known as Selina Kyle, also known as Catwoman. You can see she's been to Beijing, Buenos Aires, London, and Cape Town, with the globe in the corner covered in newspaper clippings showing various robberies that have unfolded in those locations. So, this is a little weird to think about, because we can't really see any dates on these postcards. There are some numbers in the corners, but they don't really give us any exact dates to go off of, meaning we don't know the order these postcards have been sent, also meaning we don't know when she was in these locations. We can make a general assumption that since this Cape Town card is closest to the Batcave entrance, that Bruce received it recently, meaning she was likely in South Africa last, and therefore just before the events of Arkham Knight. But we don't even know if that's true, because as you recall from much farther up the iceberg, Arkham VR is a dream. Meaning it's possible none of these events happened and it's all just Bruce's mind running rampant seeing Selina commit all these heists. It's crazy that the most believable thing about this is Selina knowing Bruce is Batman, since it's confirmed she knows at the end of Arkham Knight. But yeah, I guess she could be in South Africa, but she could just as likely be in England, Argentina, China, or right back here in America. We just don't know when each of these postcards were sent, or if they were even sent to begin with. Cyrus Pinckney. Cyrus Pinckney was a visionary architect who lived in Gotham during the mid-1800s. He was responsible for such important buildings to the series as Gotham Cathedral, the Solomon Wayne Courthouse, the Gotham Merchants Bank, and even the original buildings of Arkham Asylum. He's basically the reason Gotham and Arkham have such noticeable Gothic architecture everywhere you look. He has a side mission in Arkham Origins where Alfred mentions that he is at the center of Gotham's longest-running cold case. On the evening of his 40th birthday, Cyrus attended a party hosted by his friend Henry Cobblepot. In the midst of the party, Cyrus suddenly collapsed and appeared to have died. However, this was eventually found by Batman to not be the case. Cyrus left pages of his journal hidden in plaques all across Gotham telling the story of what actually happened. He knew that Henry was planning to kill him that night with poisoned wine, so went to Amadeus Arkham for help to escape the scenario. He swapped the poison with a chemical that would put him in a temporary death-like state, which would lead to everyone except Arkham thinking he was dead. Not long after his supposed death, Henry Cobblepot was killed in a traffic accident arranged by Pinckney, who swore revenge on the man trying to kill him. He eventually admitted that these actions were regrettable, but at the same time, necessary. His fate is currently unknown. When Batman finds his crypt after obtaining all pages of the journal, the casket that supposedly contained his body was empty. There are chances that he's still alive right now, though in all likelihood he passed away of his own volition some time ago, unbeknownst to the rest of the world. This is definitely a side mission a lot of people missed, since its existence is never made clear to the player. They just have to find it themselves, and even then are given no way to track it. It's truly a detective going to work trying to solve this cold case. That, or you just looked up a walkthrough like the rest of us. No shame in that. Razor. Razor is a Joker thug we meet in Arkham Asylum. You first meet him in the medical center. He's the thug hanging by the rope in the gas room. Despite me counting him as such, Razor does not die when Batman drops him into the Joker gas. He's able to survive most of the night until Batman's return to intensive treatment, where he's rigging the gargoyles to blow. He's up rigging the final one when Joker decides to test them out and blows him up, killing him. This time though, he's definitely dead, and Detective Mode confirms the findings. However, the community seems to think he lived this and went on to die in Arkham City. He left Joker to join Penguin's crew, but was killed by being dropped into a pool of razor blades, obviously being a pun on his name. I'm pretty sure it's because Penguin tried getting information on Joker out of him, but Razor denied giving him any, so just opted to kill him instead. I personally don't think the City Razor is the same as the one we see in Asylum, because again, Detective Mode confirms he's dead after being blasted off the gargoyle. I can make an exception for him surviving the Joker toxin, but you can't deny that Detective Mode says he is literally dead. Shakespeare Bust. The Shakespeare Bust was how Batman and Robin accessed the Batcave in the 1960s Adam West TV series. Arkham Knight took his own spin on the bust in Oracle's Clock Tower. In the show, Batman would tilt back Shakespeare's head and press a button to open a secret passage to the Batcave. However, in Arkham Knight, tilting the head back would activate a scanner that scans Batman and presumably his other allies and activates the Batcomputer in the Clock Tower. It's a pretty fun reference to include that harkens all the way back to the earliest on-screen Batman interpretation. Hidden TV Intro. In the Arkham Knight Racetrack Batcave set, you can find a small panel partway through the track to park the Batmobile. Doing so will lift the Batmobile up and let you watch a tiny part of the 1960s Adam West Batman TV show. It's just sitting right there for you to watch. It doesn't really mean anything significant, but it's a fun Easter egg for you to find and just watch some classic Batman and hear the classic Batman theme. Paulie. Not the same Paulie for Paulie's Diner, rather this guy was a former Joker thug during the time of Matter of Family. It's a long-running background gag throughout Matter of Family that nobody can determine what actually happened to Paulie, and it's honestly hilarious. Everyone agrees that he died, but how and for what is totally up in the air. All these guys can agree on is that Paulie did something that pissed Joker off, so he decided to fire him. Some think he suggested something funny regarding the Ferris wheel death trap, which Joker thought was meant to be funny. Since only Joker is allowed to be funny, he shot Paulie in the face. Some think he made a pass at Harley, which Joker didn't like. Since he thought Joker didn't care much for her and ended up calling her an annoying witch, Joker shot him in the stomach with an RPG. Some think he asked Joker why they were going through all this trouble for Batman when they could be out making money. Joker didn't like people asking him about Batman, so shot him in the stomach and threw him in the sea. Some think he unintentionally imitated Joker's laugh, so was shot and thrown off the rig. Others think he was considering leaving for Penguin, so Joker lit him on fire. and some think he was even a spy for Black Mask. When Joker found out, Paulie was flayed, rolled in honey, and thrown in a pig pen. No matter how you slice it, it's a terribly sad fate for Paulie, who almost certainly didn't deserve it. Chances are it was even none of these things, and all these thugs are just really terrible friends. Hell, there's a chance Paulie didn't even exist for all we know, or he might even be alive and is just sitting somewhere else on the rig. Either way, poor Paulie. He was used to set an example, and most of his co-workers don't even know what example he was setting. Darn shame. Rest in peace, Paulie. Thanks for all the laughs. Shooting the Arkham Knight in Ace. This is just funny. During the helicopter fight in Arkham Knight, you can actually see the titular character on top of Ace Chemicals controlling the drone. Well, this isn't just a random model thrown in for aesthetic effect. He actually has collision. If you position yourself just right and your aim is true, you can shoot him down with a concussive round from the Batmobile. It's hilarious, but unfortunately doesn't lead to anything because it wasn't intended. I honestly wish Rocksteady had noticed this and put in an Easter egg for shooting him, like instantly finishing the battle because he's knocked out. That would have been absolutely hilarious and great for speedrunning purposes because so few people even know he's up there to begin with, let alone that you could shoot him. Free roaming as other characters. The only character you can free roam as throughout the entire saga is Batman, plus Catwoman exclusively in Arkham City. All the others are completely locked out of exploring the vast open world outside of mods. Or are they? Well, in Arkham Knight, there's a way to break other characters into Gotham. Go on to one of 3 challenge maps, Terminal Velocity, Deconstruction, or Under the Pale Moonlight. Then perform a classic glitch people familiar with Arkham speedrunning know and love, corner cover zipping. I don't have the time or energy to explain it here, so I'll have some footage explaining it in the background. But basically, you store and eventually throw a projectile gadget which causes you to launch your character to some far off place and absolutely through invisible walls. If you pull off the zip correctly, your character will go flying through the barriers around the AR section, allowing you to explore the city. Unfortunately, that's all you can do, as all enemies and sub-areas are despawned, only allowing you to roam the city. It's cool you can technically get everyone into free roam without mods, but it's pretty underwhelming that you can't really do anything with it. Raish's missing body. Ra's al Ghul's body has a habit of disappearing throughout the saga. In Arkham Asylum, we see a body near Dr. Young's office with a toe tag that reads Ra's al Ghul. However, after completing the main game, this body will disappear, implying that he wasn't actually dead, or that his followers took the body away to revive him. Either one is possible. And the same thing happens in Arkham City. After Protocol 11 blows him out of Wonder Tower, he stabs himself in the gut and lands on the Arkham City sign, dying. However, after completing the campaign, his body will disappear and the only remnants will be an assassin's sword planted in the ground. This time we know his followers revived him, as we see in Season of Infamy's Shadow War. This is of course the last time he's revived, as after completing Shadow War and choosing the ending that kills Ra's, his body no longer disappears from the GCPD. Arkham Origins Next Gen. This comes from a German article all the way back before Arkham Origins was even released. It reads that WB Montreal was looking to hire a new creative director, one who ideally is an expert in next-generation AAA action-adventure games who could help expand the DC Comics universe. The article theorizes that either WB was working on another DC game, or that Arkham Origins was going to eventually be ported to next gen, which they actually listed as PlayStation 4 and Xbox 720. God, that was a time, wasn't it? As far as we know, nothing came of this job listing, as WB Montreal made absolutely no DC games, or games in general, for the 8th generation of consoles. Although, it's possible that this job listing was for work on some of Arkham Knight's DLC packs. WB Montreal was in charge of a few of those DLC packs, specifically Harley Quinn, Red Hood, and Matter of Family. So it's possible they were looking for a creative lead to head those. The timelines actually match up quite nicely, as all the DLC released only a month after Arkham Knight launched, and they needed a good amount of time to make all of it while working with Rocksteady to make sure it all works. It's possible that they planned on porting Arkham Origins to next gen, but very unlikely. You don't really need a creative lead to port a game, you need engineers to do all that. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense that people were theorizing this would be Origins next gen. Arkham Knight's distance measuring is wrong. Yeah, it just straight up is. Every distance in Arkham Knight is essentially halved, so when the waypoint says it's 4 meters away, it's actually more like 2. All the Americans that comment just pretend I said yards. But yeah, that's kind of weird to think about. All the massive distances you've been gliding and driving around the game are basically cut in half by this revelation. Who knew? Urban Chaos Riot Response. Urban Chaos Riot Response was the first game by Rocksteady, and was in fact their only game before getting signed on for Batman. I've heard some decent things about it from comments, and it seems to be appreciated as a hidden gem nowadays, but when it came out, it was not received the best. So it's really amazing that after this one game, Warner Bros. Decided to take a risk and let them handle their big boy Batman. Thankfully, the risk paid off, and we all know the rest. I would honestly love to give the game a try, but copies run for $100 on Amazon for a console that I don't even have. Can't seem to find it on any PC platform either, so I'm out of luck. If anyone knows a way to play it without spending a fortune, let me know. Archie Freeman. Archie Freeman was a man who lived in a building that became part of Arkham City. When asked to vacate his home, he refused and allowed the prison to be built up around him. Over the months of living in Arkham City, criminals would extort him for money and he'd sadly obey. One night while searching for food in a dumpster, he came across Batman's body, having him been badly wounded in a battle against Bane. He brought Batman into his apartment and tended to his wounds while relaying his story. Basically, this guy is the reason Batman is even alive for the events of Arkham City. The weird thing is that I can't find any reference to him outside of his wiki page. He doesn't make an appearance in any city story from either Arkham City or Knight, so I have to assume he's a comic-exclusive character. But again, a pretty important character either way that gives some interesting details about Arkham City, that being that regular people were still living there because they didn't want to evacuate. Now, the chance of there being more people like Archie is incredibly low, but not zero, which is cool, but also incredibly sad to think about. Remote Electrical Charge Infinite Combo Bug in Arkham City. This is something the Iceberg creator found himself, and as far as I can see, only has documented footage from him. But while facing a Titan in Arkham City, you can use the Rec Gun to build up an infinite combo. Simply use the Super Stun to incapacitate the Titan, shoot him with the Rec Gun, then begin punching him. As long as you jump over him every few punches, he'll never lose health and can be beaten down indefinitely, allowing you to achieve an infinite combo with very little effort. It's unknown why this happened since, again, this is the only record of it, but it's pretty cool this exists for achievement hunters wanting to get an easy way to get stupidly high combo achievements. Mad Love. Mad Love is a famous comic and episode of the animated series, wherein we see the origin of how Joker and Harley came to be together. Or more accurately, how Joker told stories that manipulated Harley over the course of several sessions to fall in love with him and become his unthinking henchwoman. It's as infamous a tale as they come, and we see two versions of these events appear in the Arkham saga that actually contradict one another. In Arkham Asylum, we see the most definitive version through Harley's interview tapes. Harley is interviewing Joker, Joker tells a sad tale that wins Harley's heart, Harley eventually becomes Joker's partner in crime. Great, love to see it. Except that we see an alternate version play out in Arkham Origins. In that game, we get to actually see the event instead of hearing an audio tape, which is great. Except that it contradicts what we hear in Arkham Asylum. In Origins, Harley first interviews Joker in Blackgate, while they do the interview in the Asylum in Arkham Asylum. These two events can't both happen, which is why some people have devised a theory as to how both can technically occur. Some people believe that the Asylum interview tape is the two role-playing their first meetup for old time's sake. This could have happened, but is unlikely because of another detail people seem to miss. In Arkham Origins Online, Harley is already in cahoots with Joker, meaning she's already working with him only a small time after the asylum was reopened. Meaning this interview tape where she's applying to work at Arkham couldn't have happened, because she would have already been deemed insane and sent off. Which means that Origins basically decided that the tapes aren't canon. Sorry. All this because they needed us to see Mad Love firsthand. Arkham Origins Wanted poster shows Arkham City Batman. That it does. More specifically, the poster that Shiva holds has a small portrait of Batman in the corner. This portrait is of Batman in his Arkham City suit. And more specifically than that, this portrait is of Batman's profile in Deadshot's hit list, meaning there's multiple layers of why this picture shouldn't exist. Yet another case of Origins reusing assets that we all know and love. Nightfall death scene in Arkham Asylum. If you lose the fight with Bane in Arkham Asylum, you have a chance for a death scene in which Bane performs his classic spinebreaker move on Batman, picking him up and slamming him back on his knee. breaking it in two. It's a classic move that we all know, but a little surprising that it first appeared in a death scene, which has a random chance to not even show up, rather than a traditional cutscene which would be more widely seen. At least we got to see it in Arkham Origins, even if it is a heavily nerfed version that does basically no damage to Batman. Still, cool that it exists. Man-Bat in Arkham Knight intro. It isn't quite the intro, but is still very early into the game. After exiting the clock tower for the first time in Arkham Knight, look directly to the left and skip the conversation with Gordon. You can see Man-Bat flying in the background and then dive below screen, showing that he's actually present far before his jump scare on Miyagani multiple hours later. It's very far into the background and you wouldn't even know it's there unless you're looking for it, so I don't know why Rocksteady made it so difficult to see, especially since it doesn't have any significance onto the story. But still, it exists and I guess kinda cool. Black Mask DLC in Arkham City is a prequel. Sources are so conflicted about this, I don't even know what the real answer is. So before the story of Arkham City even takes place, Black Mask was the only person to ever escape the mega prison. He stole some explosives from Penguin and, during a guard change, used them to destroy a wall out the back of the steel mill and escape into Gotham. So far so good. He was eventually detained and brought back into custody, which is where we see him actually in the game, trying to fight off Tiger Guards with a chair. Got that? Well, some people claim that his challenge maps from Arkham City are the events that led to him being re-detained. But if that was the case, where the hell did Mr. Hammer come from? A, how did he escape Arkham City, and B, why would he even fight alongside Black Mask? Before and during Arkham City, he's working for Joker. And Joker and Black Mask have one of the worst relationships imaginable between villains, so the two working together should never be a thing that happens. That's when I thought this entry could just be a typo and that was actually an aftermath. After all, that's what the wiki claims to be the case. This happens after Arkham City. But then Mr. Hammer still shouldn't be there, because he and Stickle are reunited after the events of the game to work together as a more powerful crime duo. So again, why would he be working with Black Mask? Mr. Hammer and the other goons are the big problem factor for this challenge map. If they were replaced with Black Mask's men and Mr. Hammer just wasn't there, this would at least make some modicum of sense. But with all this contradicting information, I have no idea what to think. Also, why is Riddler overseeing the events if this is Black Mask's heist? This whole thing makes absolutely no sense, so I'm just gonna stop thinking about it before my head hurts. The reason it's claimed to be a prequel is because the DLC is set in a meatpacking plant, while the city story laying out his recapture claims he was apprehended after a violent siege at a meatpacking plant that he owned. Cool, so why does he get on a train to get away? That wasn't part of the story and seems to come out of nowhere just for the hell of it. Seriously, this combat pack makes no sense whatsoever, so I'm just gonna move on because it's just contradiction after contradiction at this point. She-Bat. After completing Man-Bat's side mission in Arkham Knight, you can return to Langstrom's lab to find it in an even worse state than before. One of the monitors is now on the ground with what appears to be blood writing out, "Forever my beloved," and Francine's body is missing. People have theorized that this could mean Francine was injected with some of the Man-Bat serum during Kirk's attack and she turned into She-Bat. But, I mean, she's dead, man, like, dead. More likely than not, Man-Bat just flew in here at some point and stole away her body. That's probably it. I'm not saying it's impossible the serum could have revived her, given the series' really loose rules around death, but it's definitely not a likely outcome. True Nightfall Ending. The True Nightfall ending is given for completing every Most Wanted mission in Arkham Knight in both the base game and New Game Plus, also known as 200%. Doing so plays out the Nightfall protocol as expected, where Bruce returns home and the manor is destroyed. However, in addition, you are presented with a post-mortem James Gordon, who we see has been promoted from police commissioner to mayor of Gotham City. He gives a short speech commemorating the death of his friend, noting that now that criminals have nothing left to fear, who would be there to protect Gotham? We then see a familiar scene. A rich family walks out of a theater into a back alley, followed by armed criminals. They're assaulted, robbed, and in the worst situation imaginable. But the thugs look up to the skyline and see a familiar outline.
Hey, freak! Maybe you missed the news! Batman's dead!
That look don't scare us no more! What the hell?
This ending is the subject of countless theories, as Rocksteady left it completely open for interpretation. However, with recent developments to the series, most have come to the general consensus on what this ending means. Bruce and Alfred retreated to the Batcave during the Nightfall Protocol, faking their deaths so that the Batman could be forgotten. He then went on to create a new persona from the ashes, the Demon Bat we see, which the criminals refer to as the Ghost. He utilizes Scarecrow's fear toxin to put the fear back into the criminals, and pursue them as a seemingly supernatural force. He's still dead to everyone else, but his legacy lives on, protecting the innocent through the Ghost. Part 5. Even Deeper. The Creeper. The Creeper is the alter ego of Jack Ryder, and contrary to his evil-sounding name, is actually a hero. Long story short, while trying to do some investigative journalism in a medical factory, Ryder was injected with some experimental nanocells that give him a regenerative healing factor. He uses this factor to fight crime, including having a few team-ups with Batman. In Arkham though, this just doesn't happen. It's only implied that Ryder has his Creeper persona with a few references to his existence. However, it is also implied that Jack doesn't even know of the Creeper's existence. The only major piece of evidence for the Creeper existing occurs in Arkham City. Ryder can be seen with cuts and bruises on his face at the start of the game, but upon his safe return to the church, his face is perfectly fine, almost like the damage never existed. Which naturally implies that he has the healing factor. Furthermore, one I almost missed that occurs during Arkham City is in Quincy Sharp's interview tapes. In them, when discussing vigilantes, Vicky Vale mentions the Huntress and the Creeper, pretty much telling us that he is indeed active in this world. But that's all we've got. The Creeper only kind of exists, which is more than can be said for other characters in this saga, but it is weird how Ryder always implies that he just doesn't exist when we've apparently been given proof that he is active in the Arkhamverse. Almost like he doesn't have control when turning. What do I know though? I thought this guy was a villain based on his name alone. Arkham City Nightwing cut voiceover. The Arkham Wiki credits Quentin Flynn as the voice of Nightwing in Arkham City. But that doesn't really make sense because Nightwing has no vocal deliveries in this game whatsoever. We all know he isn't present in the main story, but even on challenge maps, he doesn't say a word. And though he does have audible grunts, those were just taken from Robin's voiceover lines. This is confirmed in both the credits and the Arkham City IMDb page. Nightwing is not listed among the voice cast in either of them. This left a lot of people wondering where the wiki got this information, myself included, because this seems like a pretty weird thing to mix up. Some claim it was just a mistake, because Flynn did voice Dick, albeit as Robin, in Arkham Origins Online. Except that's not true either. Dick is voiced by Josh Keaton in this game. Quentin Flynn has no association with the Arkham franchise whatsoever. He has never voiced a character in this series, so it's really confusing how the wiki still credits him as voicing the character. There is a theory though that the Batcave, Wayne Manor, and Black Mass challenge maps were going to be more in-depth stories for Nightwing, complete with speaking roles for him. Since Nightwing was originally included with the Batcave and Manor maps, this kinda checks out. It would have been a small story about Tiger invading Bruce's home while he was stuck in Arkham City, and Nightwing being the only one to step in and stop them. That kinda makes sense, and would require a speaking role, hence Quentin Flynn. But it would have been cut and reduced to just challenge maps. It's a fine enough theory, I guess, but still doesn't excuse the wiki having this blatantly wrong information, which is incorrect on 2 accounts. Copperhead poison in Arkham Knight. Before Ace Chemicals is destroyed in Arkham Knight, you can find a vial of Copperhead's poison from Arkham Origins. It's sitting on a bench behind this destructible wall, and is pretty easy to miss. It's theorized that Scarecrow used some of this poison to amplify the effects of his fear toxin in this game, which is possible but unlikely, since it's a neurotoxin that kills anything injected in minutes. And if it were combined with fear toxin, it would just create an airborne virus that would slowly kill people before the fear could get to them. Fine enough theory, but it's a little bit weird for me. Grotesque Penguin Render. Anyone else still haunted by this terrifying render they used on the cover of Penguin's trailer for Arkham City? Like, seriously, what the hell is this? It has nothing to do with the trailer, looks only tangentially like Penguin, and doesn't appear in the game anywhere. Well, people theorize that this was a scrapped boss for Penguin's section of the game, possibly having to do with Titan. looking at it, it could pass as Penguin on Titan, and since we know he has some, it would make sense for him to inject himself and use it to fight Batman. Well, sorry to burst everyone's bubble 12 years after the fact, but this wasn't even official artwork. It was misappropriated fan art used by IGN for only their thumbnail of Penguin's Arkham City trailer. It's not from Rocksteady and isn't even related to Arkham at all. It's just an incredibly talented fan artist who really likes Penguin. So go shit on IGN for a bit for making this incredibly stupid mistake. Arkham Asylum's no shoe rule. Ever notice that none of the inmates in Arkham Asylum wear shoes? By the looks of it, Arkham has a no shoe policy. Now, in real life, psych wards do have a no shoelace policy because shoelaces are a self-harm risk, but they still let you wear shoes and even give patients shoes to wear without laces. However, it seems like Arkham has taken that rule one step further and just banned shoes altogether. The only inmates we see wearing shoes are Joker, since he literally just got there, Harley, since she broke in and wasn't a patient at the time, and to a small extent Scarecrow, who just put bandages around his feet to resemble shoes. Everyone else is completely barefoot. Guess the devs just had a thing for feet, huh? At least they all learned to cover up for Arkham City. Blackgate is a mall after Arkham Asylum? According to some thugs in Arkham City and billboards in Arkham Knight, yes. After the events of Asylum and all the criminals being moved to Arkham City, Blackgate was turned into a shopping mall. This honestly kind of makes sense because there's nothing else to do with it at this point. Quincy Sharp opened Arkham City without even using taxpayer dollars, so why keep a prison open with no prisoners? Especially after Joker burned down a good amount of it to move his crew to Arkham. It's a nice little continuity detail between Arkham City and Arkham Knight that's pretty fun. Holly Robinson. Holly is a young girl taken in by Catwoman. In the comics, she ends up taking the Catwoman mantle when Selina is out of commission or dead, but in Arkham, no such event occurs, so she's completely relegated to the background and is only name-dropped. Her life is used as leverage by Hugo Strange when trying to interview Selina during Arkham City, and it allows him to get some answers out of her. This is the only reference we get to Holly in the entire series, but it's nice to see them acknowledge her existence in some way, even if all it does is give us some Catwoman lore. Dearest Rush, Love Joker. This is in reference to the Titan containers Joker planned to ship out to the other villains in Arkham Asylum. If you recall, just before the Double Titan boss, Joker has crates of Titan ready to ship out with villains listed on the name tags. These included Catwoman, Black Mask, Penguin, and more. These were all changed in the Return to Arkham remaster to be only Penguin, since he's the only one that ends up with any Titan formula in Arkham City. But in the original version, Joker planned to send some to someone named Rush. Except that's not true. You can only see it as Rush by taking control of the camera and clipping into this box, where you see the first letter as R. In all likelihood, this was supposed to be Hush, but the artist made a small typo and put an R. So rather than send it back to get fixed, they just slapped the corner of this crate on the R to make it look like an H is clipping out. Because who else in the entire Batman mythos has Ush at the end of their name? It's just a Hush, don't overthink it. 89 Batmobile in Arkham Origins. We all know you can see the under construction Batmobile in the back of the Batcave in Arkham Origins. What you maybe didn't know is that Bruce's blueprints for the car aren't his own. They're actually the exact same blueprints used for Michael Keaton's Batmobile in 1989, meaning WB Montreal just took the already existing asset and pasted it into their game thinking nobody would notice. But oh, we absolutely did, WB. Well played, and might I say, a very good choice for inspiration. The Three Stooges. In Arkham Asylum, there's a certain intercom chime that references a classic Three Stooges bit.
Paging Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard.
This references a time when the Stooges were doctors, since Howard, Fine, and Howard are the three's last names. A funny reference that is perfectly in line with Joker. I can totally see him referencing other Three Stooges bits at random times, and this one fits so well since, we're in Arkham Asylum. Catwoman is related to the Falcones. I know it's Falcone, but the games pronounce it Falcone, so that's what I'm sticking with. Anyway, I'm not so sure about this one. The Arkham Wiki claims on Catwoman's page that she is the adopted daughter of Carmine Falcone, which is a bit of a change from most versions where the two are related. In the cases the two are considered family, Selina is the biological daughter, though usually one where Carmine was having an affair. But apparently in Arkham she's adopted, and the only real evidence toward this is a billboard that exists somewhere in the series. For the life of me, I couldn't find which game this came from, but it's on our wiki page, so let it be so.
Well, well, Julian Day. What are you doing here?
Catwoman? How very nice to see you here.
Don't get too excited. There's no way I'm letting you free. Not after that Falcone mess.
How funny that you should mention that illustrious family. And so close to your birthday. Tell me, are you expecting anything specific from your father this year?
What do you mean?
Oh, nothing, really. I'll be seeing you, kitty cat. This year or next.
Ultimately, this doesn't change anything because the Falcones are so irrelevant to the story of the Arkham saga, only making a tangential appearance in Arkham Origins through Carmine's son Alberto. So even though this is technically a piece of lore, it doesn't really mean anything. Failed Titan Henchman. While exploring the sewers of the botanical gardens in Arkham Asylum, you hear Joker singing as he makes the Titan formula. What you may have missed, however, is him disposing of a body. This body has the mutations we all know Titan is prone to doing, namely enlarged limbs, but it's also a dead guy being dropped into the sewer. It shows that Joker still hasn't quite perfected the formula at this point, and he's just trying whatever he can to get it right, no matter how many goons he needs to dispose of in the process. Batman slamming unconscious thugs to the ground. This is a pretty funny encounter that can occur in Arkham Knight, though I'm not entirely sure how to replicate it myself. Basically, if you perform a move that simultaneously launches an enemy into the air and knocks them out, you can use the grab move to slam them into the ground despite them being unconscious. It's a pretty cool move, so I'm surprised I hadn't seen it before now, but it's pretty funny you can do this. Does it really mean anything? No, but it's funny, and that's what really matters in this world. Arkham Origins playable villains. In a reply to a random tweet praising Arkham Origins, game director Benoit Riker said that his original pitch had a lot more content than we got. It would have included playable villains in the open world, allowing the game to stand out from the other entries in the series. As we know, this didn't happen, but we can still see remnants of it. We did get Deathstrokes and challenge maps, and apparently Joker has some files left behind that have been restored with mods. Weird. But most notably, we did get to play as Joker and Bane in Origins Online. While it's not the open world concept they wanted, we did still get to play as the villains, so I think that counts for something. Cadmus Labs. Cadmus Labs is a company owned by Lex Luthor that specializes in cloning technology. You can see a poster for this company in Harley Quinn's Revenge, placed eerily close to some Joker statues. This led some people to believe that Joker would come back in Arkham Knight, but as a clone. It wouldn't have been the first time either, as this isn't too dissimilar to the plot of Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker, so there is indeed some precedent for this happening. As we know, this was a bust and Joker was indeed dead, but it was an interesting theory nonetheless that kept a lot of us on edge. Arkham Knight inspired the Batman Who Laughs. This is a headcanon for many fans, since Arkham Knight came out 2 years before the first appearance of the Batman Who Laughs. It's very possible since we were very close to getting a Batman Who Laughs-like ending at the end of Arkham Knight. Batman's worst fear is becoming the Joker, and Scott Snyder, the creator of the Batman Who Laughs, said in an interview that he's basically Batman's worst nightmare come to life. Batman if he was infected by the Joker toxin and lost all sense of ethics. What he wants to do in Gotham is bring Bruce's worst nightmares to life. Sound familiar? Almost like how Bruce is infected with Joker's blood and begins losing his moral compass. He begins attaching lethal weapons to all his vehicles, and Joker begins slowly creeping in to take over his mind. By the endgame, Joker does fully take over, but Batman is only able to fight back thanks to, ironically, fear toxin and his sheer willpower. This is a very likely possibility. And after seeing legitimately hundreds of people in my comments say how much they would have loved to see the Batman Who Laughs in Arkham Knight, I wouldn't be surprised if it was Snyder's main point of inspiration. Joker's One Rule. In Arkham Asylum, during one of his many intercom chimes, Joker says that everyone only needs to follow one rule on his Arkham Island, and that anyone who doesn't comply will be killed. The best part? It's a secret. It's ultimately just another classic joke from the Clown Prince of Crime, rather than some deep insight into Joker as a character, which I'm perfectly fine with. A serious house on a serious Earth. Arkham Asylum, see subtitle, is a graphic novel written back in 1989. It appears to be the biggest story influence for the Arkham Asylum game, with many ideas shared between the two. Most notably among them is the inmates running the asylum, and the backstory of Amadeus Arkham and the current warden going crazy to believing himself to be Amadeus' reincarnation. The biggest differences occur in the present rogues gallery between the two works. Serious House on a Serious Earth has villains like Mad Hatter, Two-Face, Maxie Zeus, and Clayface, while Arkham Asylum has Bane, Poison Ivy, and Harley Quinn. This naturally leads to different plots overall, but the influences are clear. In fact, there's one especially notable reference to the novel at the beginning of Arkham Asylum. At the beginning of the game, when Joker says this,
"Don't be a stranger, you're always welcome here."
It's very close to Joker's final line at the end of the novel. "Just don't forget, if it ever gets too tough, there's always a place for you here." Not sure if this is an intentional reference, but knowing Rocksteady, it probably is. Also, it's clear the art especially was a big inspiration for Arkham Asylum's concept art and eventually art style. This stuff is honestly terrifying, just like our eventual masterpiece of a game. It makes perfect sense that Rocksteady would pull so much inspiration from this comic, especially since it was, and still is, one of the most well-received pieces of Batman media ever. Batman Arkham Asylum live in London. This doesn't actually have to do with the Arkham series, but is a cool thing that Londoners can maybe experience. Apparently, there's an immersive experience in London, giving visitors a once-in-a-lifetime experience inside a recreated Arkham Asylum, utilizing advanced technology and interactive theatrics, following a completely original story to create a chilling and immersive experience. And unfortunately, those are all the details that exist. It was planned to open back in 2021, but to this day, the website still says that it will be opening at a later date. The only thing that remains is a blank website and two nearly identical trailers on their YouTube channel, with no news of an opening date. At this point, who knows if it'll ever open. Scarab symbol in Panessa. So I can honestly say I've never really noticed that the Chronicles of Arkham have a scarab symbol in the center. I'm sure I've seen it, but I've never really acknowledged it. Which is weird when those same symbols appear in Arkham Knight during Jason's torture sequences, and I also never noticed them. But yeah, there they are. They only appear during the hallucinations and disappear after snapping back to reality. So I guess this was another way to link Jason's torture to the asylum? I don't know why we really needed that. I mean, we all knew he was tortured there, and if we didn't, we'd find out from the man himself only a few hours later. Also, I guess this means Arkham has some kind of scarab symbolism to it. Never really comes up again, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Using the wreck on Grundy. Using the remote electrical charge on Solomon Grundy will make him regain health, which, makes sense because he's powered by electricity. It also causes Penguin to laugh and taunt Batman for doing so. This fact is actually used in speedruns to temporarily stun Grundy and make it easier to lay down gel without getting hit in the first two phases. But, yeah, that's about it. Tiger operating out of Arkham Asylum. After the events of Arkham Asylum, the island was put up for auction to the highest bidder. Tiger purchased the island and made it their base of operations under Strange's command. Unfortunately, we get no details beyond that simple factoid, and the fact that they quickly moved out after Strange was killed during Protocol 11. Shadow War Moral Dilemma. This entry is essentially asking which outcome of Shadow War is canon. If we weren't in control and couldn't make a choice, would Batman have saved Ra's or let him die? We may never know the answer, but you can argue for either way. Many claim letting Ra's die is the canon ending, simply because it is the better outcome. Nyssa lives and disbands the League, war is averted, and the warmongering zealot that is Ra's al Ghul lives no more. However, choosing said ending draws interesting parallels to when Batman walks Joker's body out of Arkham City. It's basically a shot-for-shot remake and implies that if given the chance, he would have saved Ra's. Batman says that he would have saved Joker even after everything is done, and regrets not being able to do so while walking his body out. Does he feel the same way about Ra's while walking his body out? That if he was given the choice rather than the player, he would have saved him? Even if it does lead to a worse ending where Nyssa dies, the defectors go into hiding, and the League lives on, meaning that they will kill again, it's probably what Batman would have done. It may not be the ending most of you chose, I know I let Ra's die my first time, but it is probably the canon ending. But in the end, it's just a hypothetical and we will probably never know. All we do know is that letting Ra's die has him being proud of Batman. Interpret that however you wish. Happy Unicorn TV. In Arkham Knight, near the lighthouse on Bleak Island, there is a random TV you can turn on using the remote hacking device. Doing so plays a pixelated dancing unicorn with the aforementioned text on a TV. This just kind of exists. It's not a reference to anything, and it's completely hidden from all of the player's tools aside from the remote hacking device. It doesn't even show up in detective mode. It's just a funny thing that the developers put, or maybe even left in just for the hell of it. It exists, and that's about it. Riddler's father. As with seemingly all the great villains out there, Riddler had an unfortunately abusive childhood. His father would belittle him, constantly calling him a moron, and even accuse him of cheating in a school competition because there's just no way he could have been that smart. This played into his future psyche, leading Edward to his eventual emotional instability and overall psychosis. We see that his father's influence never really left him over the years, with one reference many people most certainly saw during his boss fight in Arkham Knight, where he screams out,
"Die, father! I mean, Batman!"
Even in the midst of fighting his greatest foe, Riddler is still haunted by his father, which is unfortunate to see, but also a little funny in a really sick and twisted way. Admit it, you laughed at this line too, even with how sad it is in retrospect. The Road to Arkham. The Road to Arkham is a short tie-in comic that takes place minutes before the events of Arkham Asylum. It shows exactly what went through Batman's mind as he drove Joker to Arkham that fateful night, and more importantly, shows that his choosing to go with Joker into the asylum wasn't a split-second decision. He was planning it the entire ride there. Turns out the reason Batman is so on edge this evening is because Joker wasn't the only easy arrest he made lately. He's been getting multiple anonymous tips ratting out villains, leading to far easier arrests than he'd normally be able to make. Both Zsasz and Scarecrow had their plans exposed, allowing Batman to stop them before they could get away with their plans. The same thing happened with Joker. Someone was able to make a shockingly quick 911 call to alert the police that Joker was holding the mayor hostage, letting Batman swoop in to save the mayor and stop Joker rather easily. He says himself, "Actually, it was one of the easier takedowns I've had lately." Batman suspects that 3 easy arrests to Arkham can't be a coincidence, especially since Joker had been missing for months up until that point, so him surrendering almost without a fight seems too good to be true. While we don't know exact details, it's very likely Joker orchestrated all of this. He made it easy for Batman to arrest Zsasz and Scarecrow so they'd be in the asylum during the big night, while also making it easy for himself to be locked up so he'd get inside. He knows Batman all too well, so knew it would get on his nerves and get him into the asylum, into the perfect position to take over the madhouse. It seems like Joker's line at the end of the game was all too true. Months of planning did indeed go down the crapper. Overall, Return to Arkham is a nice little comic giving us just the right amount of details we needed to know from the build-up to the evening. But I'm glad the details were relegated to a comic and not thrust into our face during the actual game. Tallyman. Tallyman is another of the many villains we hear about but never see. He's a criminal obsessed with debt collecting and killing those who owe others money. The only mention we get is a single line of dialogue in Arkham Knight, where a former Arkham City inmate in Polly's diner mentions how he owes some people money, and if he doesn't pay up, Tallyman is probably gonna get him. The others he's talking to suggest he go work at Hell's Gate to start earning some money, which we've discussed is a front for Two-Face. Unfortunately, this is all we get, as Tallyman makes no appearances or even mentioned outside of this. But he does exist, make no mistake of that. A Death Foretold. Towards the beginning of Arkham City, Joker locks Batman in the bell tower of the church with a bomb. As he counts down the imminent explosion, Batman jumps out the window to escape the blast. But what many players may have missed is the conversation Joker has if the player sits through the countdown.
What are you waiting for? We both know how this is going to turn out. You're going to come and find me. You can't stop yourself, can you? Sometimes I wonder if all this will just end with one of us looking down at the other's corpse, trying to work out what to do next. The only question is, whose body will it be? I know who I'm rooting for. What about you? Now get out of there now, or you'll ruin everything.
This is of course foretelling the inevitable, the fact that Joker is going to die at the end of this game, and perfectly predicts how Batman reacts to that reality at the end of the game. Batman is left looking down at Joker's corpse, wondering what to do next. It's a great piece of foreshadowing that nobody really saw in their first playthrough because we were all so focused on getting away from that blast. Part 6. Bottom of the Iceberg. Unfinished racetrack in Arkham Knight. In the files for Arkham Knight, there existed an unfinished Riddler racetrack somewhere below Gotham. It would later be repurposed as the Wayne Tech Underwater Loop DLC track. Good on Rocksteady for repurposing old assets and making something more unique out of them than just more Riddler stuff. I like the racetracks, but 4 Riddler races would have just been too many. Joker's beta design. Joker's early concept art for Arkham Asylum was a lot goofier than the final design we got. His clothes were a bit baggier rather than fitting to his slim form, his bow tie was outrageously large, and his hair featured some odd spikes all over the place. Interestingly, this oddly spiked hair can still be seen in the trailer for Arkham Asylum, though was of course changed to a more slick design we see before the final release. I'm very glad they made the changes they did because this Joker looks just a bit too goofy for the more grounded and serious tone of the Arkham saga. Sounds in Arkham's grave? Short answer, no. Long explanation, this video appeared some time ago claiming there were sounds coming from inside Amadeus Arkham's grave in Arkham Asylum. It almost sounds like groaning and creaking, but it's all but confirmed to be fake. The person who made the video more than likely added the sounds themselves in post to get a conspiracy going. Amadeus Arkham is dead, his ghost doesn't haunt the asylum, and Quincy Sharp is indeed crazy to think he's the reincarnation of him. Moving on. Blue Hell. Blue Hell is not an Arkham-specific reference. Rather, it's a community-created term for breaking out of bounds in games. This started back in the days of early GTA, where players breaking out of bounds would be met with a blue void because of the color of the sky. Since the sky wraps around the entire world, including below it, that's the only thing players would see when breaking out of bounds, thus the name Blue Hell. You can reach Blue Hell in basically every Arkham game, as doing so is a very prominent speedrun strategy. Although the most well-known one mentioned in the last video was the one in the Riddle Room with the exposed Riddler model. Talia's missing body. So I messed up with this one in the first Iceberg and would like to correct myself. It has nothing to do with Talia's body suddenly disappearing during Clayface's fight. Instead, it was referring to the morgue in the Shadow War mission of Season of Infamy. One of the lockers has a tag that says Talia al Ghul, but no body inside. This implies that Talia may be out there, secretly alive, or at least that her body is. Though it's also a much more casual reference to the previously mentioned Raish's missing body in Arkham Asylum. Guess it runs in the family. Tiger Boat in Arkham Origins. Way off in the distance in Arkham Origins, beyond any boundaries the player can access, is a boat that supposedly has a tiger symbol on it. I can confirm it is indeed the tiger logo, but this is clearly just a reused asset. This is definitely not a tiger boat because Tiger wasn't formed until after the events of Arkham Asylum, and the player is never meant to get this close to the boat. Just look at how low res and far out of bounds it is. This logo was never meant to be seen by the player, so is definitely not a reference to Tiger. Dev wanted posters. In basically every Arkham game after City, the devs like to have fun and put themselves on wanted posters and recently arrested lists. There's really not much else to say on the matter. If you see a wanted poster in an Arkham game that isn't of a pre-established character, it's almost certainly a dev who worked on the game. Batmobile in Arkham City. Quote from Sefton Hill over a year before Arkham City released, "There aren't any playable vehicles in the game. What we've really focused on is Batman himself. We see him as the ultimate vehicle." If only they kept that design philosophy in mind for Arkham Knight. That's why there's no Batmobile in Arkham City, though it does technically make an appearance in the Batcave challenge map. To add on to this, early in development of Arkham Knight, Rocksteady dropped a prototype Batmobile in the existing Arkham City map as an experiment, the results of which were absolutely disastrous. The team immediately learned that what works on foot does not necessarily work as a satisfying vehicular experience. This was their awakening moment to start making Arkham Knight's map a lot bigger. Streets needed to be widened so players wouldn't be constantly bonking into walls, buildings needed to be made taller to accommodate the Batmobile's ejection seat and Batman's improved mobility, and overall they just needed to make the map bigger. To again quote Sefton Hill, Arkham City was quite claustrophobic, so if you were really good at grappling and gliding, you could nick between small buildings. But here we have a lot more negative space between the buildings, so it's much easier and more enjoyable to glide around. And this right here is just some interesting insight on game design, folks. Something that works in one aspect will not necessarily work in another. Everyone complaining that Gotham's layout in Arkham Knight is illogical and stupid, you know who you are. Shut up. Because this is just proof that it flat out would not have worked any other way. The other games were far too small and condensed to use the Batmobile, which is something they learned from when making Arkham Knight, so made everything bigger exactly as they should be. Arkham logo briefly appearing in the skyline. Apparently, after the Bane fight in Arkham Asylum, the Arkham logo will briefly appear in the skyline, but only if you're playing Return to Arkham. In that case, for some reason, there's a building back on the mainland with the Arkham logo on it. It just kinda exists, but has no reason to do so, so I don't know what's going on there. It didn't exist in the original Asylum either, which is the weird part, so why did they put it there? Dog barking in Arkham City. Apparently, you can sometimes hear a dog barking in Arkham City. I don't know if this is a Return to Arkham exclusive or if I just have really selective hearing, but as far as I know, I've never heard it. What's crazier is that some people think this dog is somehow a hellhound, a mythological creature standing guard in the underworld. Yeah, one of those is apparently this little dog barking in Arkham City. Right. This is honestly on the same level of stupid as the Arkham City entity. It's literally just a dog used for ambience. Maybe one of the inmates smuggled one in, or maybe you're just hearing a really loud dog from outside the prison. It's not a freaking hellhound. Lady of Gotham Joker-fied. After Batman is blasted with fear toxin and ace chemicals and starts seeing Joker everywhere, various parts of the city also become Joker. Statues and billboards all over the city will replace their normal versions with Joker and Batman's faces, and that even includes the Lady of Gotham in the center of the city. Between lightning flashes, you can very briefly see the statue become Joker and then turn back to normal, although this only works when you're decently far away from the statue and not right on top of it. It's pretty fun that this happens because it shows how far Batman is falling to madness, while also putting the player in Batman's shoes. They start seeing Joker in just as many unexpected places as Batman, including the giant statue in the center of the map. Arkham Asylum Lighthouse Explorable. There was some concept art for Arkham Asylum that showed the lighthouse as an important location. Apparently, it would have been explorable to some extent, though we can't say if it would actually be for the story, or just for like a Riddler trophy. Though judging from how much concept art there is, it likely would have been an important location. The idea ended up being scrapped since the team believed the island was already too big, so adding it would just be unnecessary. I think this means it would have played a significant part in the story. I can't imagine what they would have had us doing, seeing as the story is so well put together that having us sidetrack to the lighthouse would just feel unnecessary. So while the concept art looks absolutely incredible, I'm glad they ended up cutting it. Joker's heartbeat during Clayface fight. Joker actually gets nervous during Batman's battle with Clayface, but only when Batman gets hit. He obviously doesn't want Batman to die because, to quote the animated series,
"Without Batman, crime has no punchline."
So he's hoping with all his might that Batman makes it through this fight, and anytime the player fails to meet those expectations, he gets a little nervous. Clayface's fate. After his fight in Arkham City, Clayface is dumped into the Lazarus Pit where many players assumed he died. This is not the case, however, as he is merely permanently incapacitated. After Arkham City was shut down, multiple parties acquired samples of his clay, including the GCPD, Stag Industries, and Hush. Hush used the clay to cover up the scars from his face surgery, which is why his face looks so clean come Arkham Knight, despite all the scars that wouldn't naturally heal because his fake face wouldn't get any blood flow. Meanwhile, Stag used the samples to start Project Meta, which resulted in the creation of Metamorpho, someone I've never heard of and won't go into because it's a lot of details that don't really matter because he never exists in-game. What does matter is that Carlo is still alive within the samples collected by the GCPD. but he's unable to take shape again because of the Lazarus particles mixed with the clay and the explosion from the generator. He's essentially living in limbo forever. He can't take form again, but he also can't really die unless they find a way to destroy this clay, which is an incredibly sad fate for Clayface. Carlo didn't deserve this, but it is his ultimate fate in the Arkham saga. Note: very deep looking water. In Arkham City, you can meet Killer Croc just after defeating Ra's al Ghul. If you were to somehow clip your way through this gate, you would find a dev note that says, "Note: very deep looking water." This is almost certainly just a notice that the team accidentally left behind while they were blocking out this level sequence. They needed some deep looking water so Croc could seemingly appear out of nowhere, and understandably swim in it without clipping under the floor or something. Doesn't technically mean anything, but is a fun bit of game design trivia left behind, which is always nice. Zorro skin for Arkham City hoax. Back in the days of Arkham City rumors, there was some hoax concept art of Batman wearing a skin designed after Zorro from the aptly named film, The Mask of Zorro. In the original interpretation of Batman, the movie that the Wayne family saw before their untimely death was none other than The Mask of Zorro. This has changed as more interpretations of Batman have been created, but The Mask of Zorro was the original film the family watched on that fateful night. In fact, Bob Kane says that Zorro was the biggest inspiration for his creation of Batman. So Zorro has always had a massive impact on the Dark Knight, which is probably why this false suit caught on so much. As we all know, it ended up being fake because there was never such a skin to be released, but it was a fun bit of trivia nonetheless. Rainy weather in Arkham Asylum. It's theorized that Arkham Asylum was originally supposed to feature rainy weather, and there's actually a surprising amount of evidence to support this. Whenever the player goes to the Batcave through Dead Man's Point, they might miss the fact that it's just randomly started pouring rain. You could argue this is just water from the cliff, but it's almost certainly isn't because there's definitely no waterfall here. It was perfectly clear just outside the cave moments ago, and now it just randomly started raining? It continues into the cutscene as Batman dives into the cave system as well, so it's clearly not an accident. Furthermore, anytime, and I mean anytime, the player is in the medical facility, lightning seems to randomly flash through the windows, and you can hear thunder in the distance, even though, again, it's perfectly clear outside. Also, the intro cutscene where Batman is driving Joker back to Arkham has a massive storm going on outside, which is still going on when Batman first enters the asylum. Then it just suddenly ends when he exits intensive treatment for the first time, and we eventually get those other events I just mentioned. All this implies that Arkham Asylum was originally supposed to have rainy weather, but it just doesn't. It's very likely they wanted to have a storm going throughout the whole game, but they couldn't get the rain system to work prior to release, so had to cut it, leaving these random details in. I'll be honest, I never even noticed these details aside from the lightning flashes in the medical building, and even then I just shrugged them off with a, huh, weird, and moved on. I never even noticed it was raining in the intro cutscene until I had to research for this section, so just goes to show how much you can miss if you're not looking for it. Rocksteady would of course remedy this lack of rain in Arkham Knight, giving us one of the best looking rain systems in any game ever made, and also implemented in the Return to Arkham Asylum remaster, showing us what this game was supposed to look like with permanent rain. Cloudburst made out of alien alloy. There's information on a monitor in Arkham Knight which states that the Cloudburst tank is plated with nth metal alloy. Nth metal is associated with Hawkman and Hawkgirl, and is an indestructible metal originating from the planet Thanagar. So how the hell did Jason get his hands on this metal? If it's even true, we may never know, though that does explain why the tank was practically indestructible during their battle during City of Fear. The tank was lined with an impenetrable metal that Batman simply couldn't work around. Bruce Man glitch. By engaging in a little tomfoolery at the start of Arkham City, you can escape the invisible walls forcing you up to Ace Chemicals building and explore the city as Bruce Wayne. There isn't too much to see as a lot of textures on the ground are missing since the game doesn't expect you to be here yet, and none of the enemies lining the ground will engage you in combat since, again, you aren't even supposed to be here. But interestingly, you can make it to the courthouse and even go inside. Doing so will let you actually engage these enemies in combat and get shot by Two-Face, but following the cutscene, the game will completely break and you'll be soft-locked. Since you don't have the Batsuit on, you can't enter detective mode and scan the bullet holes. But since you didn't scan the bullet holes, the game doesn't allow you to leave, so you're stuck here for eternity. It's pretty fun that you can do this, even if it doesn't allow you to do all too much. Hell, there's even a speedrun category of this called Wayne%, and the world record is a staggeringly short 5 minutes 48 seconds, which has been held for over a year now. Lunatics are Strange's failed experiments. It's very depressing, but absolutely the case. During his time working at Arkham Asylum, Strange wanted to study the inner workings of the brain, but given the laws of ethics in medicine, he couldn't do that without having his medical license revoked. So he took the patient that nobody would miss, those without families to check in on them who had been essentially abandoned in Arkham, and started experimenting in secret. Those patients were eventually lobotomized, driven to madness, locked up, and forgotten to keep Strange's experiments a secret. They were then completely neglected, only given 1 meal a week, hence their skinniness in Arkham Asylum. After Joker's takeover of Arkham Island, some of them managed to escape, but the few who did either ended up finding caves to live in or committed suicide at Dead Man's Point. And as if that wasn't enough, the few that survived were eventually rounded up and put back into the asylum, where they were again experimented on by Strange. After the asylum's closure, the few still living were shipped off to Penguin and used as target practice for his men. That's an incredibly dark fate for these poor men. They were just mentally sick people who wanted help, whose families abandoned them, and they were driven to madness and eventually death. It's an incredibly tragic lore detail that makes me feel really bad for all the times I've slammed them into the floor. Titan Henchman in Morgue. In a teaser trailer for Arkham Asylum, there's a quick flash of footage showing a Titan henchman in the morgue, where the first Scarecrow encounter happens. This is understandably confusing, since there's obviously no Titan battle in this part of the game, and heck, Titan hasn't even been introduced at this point yet. It's possible they had planned on having a battle here and rearranged the game in post, but just look at this clip. The Titan is standing between the slabs and barely even fits. This isn't a suitable location for a fight. I believe they did this as a way of further throwing us off from discovering the existence of Scarecrow. Because fun fact, the one thing they didn't show us about Arkham Asylum in the trailers was Scarecrow. If you watch all of Arkham Asylum's trailers, they hide practically nothing. You can watch through nearly the entire game by just watching them, except for Scarecrow. He makes 0 appearances except an incredibly quick flash of his shadow, which is only on screen for 2 frames in the final trailer. A trailer they released 5 days before launch. Scarecrow was non-existent in Arkham Asylum's marketing. They kept him completely under lock and key until the game released, because they really wanted him to be a surprise appearance for players. So it makes sense why this Titan is in the morgue. They needed to keep Scarecrow a secret while showing off this creepy location and showing off Titans. So, kill 3 birds with 1 stone and throw players off the idea of Scarecrow's existence while also giving them a cool shot to look at. I say that's a win-win-win. Arkham Asylum and Arkham City earliest screenshots. There are quite a lot of screenshots floating around the internet back in the early days of Arkham Asylum and City's development, showing off just what the games were going to look like well before the trailers were even released. First, we have a really early build of Batman's Asylum model, and I am so unabashedly glad they didn't continue with these models because they look so bad. This one's face is almost as bad as the one from Return to Arkham. Almost. Meanwhile, on the later screenshot side, we have a lot of moments that are easily recognizable. We've got thugs, some mid-fighting moments, Joker, Killer Croc. These things definitely helped build the hype. Though interestingly, the electric chair isn't being manned by Zsasz, but rather some random inmate with back tattoos, which either means they wanted to keep Zsasz a secret for later, or had originally planned this section to just be a regular old thug. Either way is pretty interesting. Lastly, we have what appear to be early screenshots of the Arkham Mansion, most likely the library where we have the Predator section, though it could also be the main hall. There's no real way to know for certain, but my money's on the library. For Arkham City screenshots, we have a lot of fun details that I'm sure people dug super deep into when they came out. I mean, these things revealed a whole hell of a lot of information, and revealed it months before even the first trailer was released. We've got our new Harley, smoke bombs, the cryptographic sequencer, a guy holding a shield and a fire extinguisher, Batman walking on a wire, Catwoman and Two-Face, and detective mode tracking a bullet trail. These things revealed a lot of the new things that would be going down in Arkham City. Though something interesting to me is that the Joker thugs Batman is fighting in this one appear to have some red clothing, which is very much not their color scheme in this game. They prefer purple and green, so I guess that was changed later in development. Honestly, I'm surprised they revealed as much as they did with plain old screenshots before the trailers were even aired. Though it's also possible they were leaked and this wasn't Rocksteady's intent. Either way is pretty fun. Mad Hatter has no skeleton in Arkham Origins. It's true, and nobody really knows why. Considering how much Arkham Origins recycled from Arkham City, you'd think Hatter's model would be one of them. But Hatter does indeed have a skeleton in Arkham City, so it really doesn't make sense why it's missing in Arkham Origins. Though I have a possible theory as to why, and it's not something to do with lore. No, it isn't Clayface, that wouldn't make any sense, don't suggest it. As many of us know, Arkham runs in the Unreal 3 engine, and as it turns out, I happened to work in that engine during my school days. When you have a lot of things in one scene, it's really easy to get some things mixed up, and either call the wrong function or accidentally hide something. So my guess is that a dev working in engine accidentally hid Hatter's skeleton without realizing, and it was simply never caught during testing because it was an unlikely thing for players to run into. Why would players bother entering detective mode in Hatter's lair when there's nothing important to see? It was probably just never accounted for, so was never noticed during playtests, and ended up in the final release completely on accident. It's shockingly easy to accidentally hide things when working in Unreal, and with all the files you're working with crammed into one tiny area, it's very easy to miss little things like this. That's at least my possible explanation. What do you all think? Original Arkham Origins Batsuit. The original Arkham Origins Batsuit appeared to have a bit different armor plating than the one we eventually got. While it's not super noticeable in these screenshots, it is indeed different, and was changed after the alpha builds. It's mostly in the neck area, and in my opinion, these different designs aren't exactly super distinct, so they really could have gone with any of them and I wouldn't have noticed. Hidden cutscene frame. Hidden is a pretty exaggerated phrase here, more likely a technical oopsie that slipped through testing, because all it is a single frame that shouldn't be there. When Robin gives Batman the line launcher and jumps off the building, there's a single frame when you can see Batman in what looks to be an alleyway staring at a wall. This isn't of any significance, however. It's just what the game does during cutscenes. The game has two versions of Batman, gameplay and cutscene. When a cutscene starts, gameplay Batman is teleported somewhere below Arkham City to this part of the map so he doesn't get in the way. The cutscene plays out, and then gameplay Batman is teleported back to where he's needed to start gameplay again. In this case, they cut back to gameplay Batman just a frame too early before he was teleported, and we could get a single frame that just doesn't look right. That's all it is. It's not a hidden detail or anything, just a minor bug that playtesters missed. Bat Scooter Blueprints. You can find various blueprints scattered throughout the Arkham Origins Batcave, some of which are way funnier than they should be. There's a bat hovercraft, possibly meant to be a prototype bat boat, a bat jet, not to be confused with the Batwing, the bat cycle, though looking a lot more like a traditional motorcycle than anything we've seen, and hilariously, a bat scooter. You can't make this stuff up, man. Original cape design. Batman's cape in Arkham Asylum was originally going to look kinda stupid. It was going to hang over only one shoulder, rather than the two we're used to today. This can be seen in early screenshots of Batman's model, as well as this alpha screenshot. I'm very glad they didn't go this route, because a non-symmetrical cape would have made me uncharacteristically angry. Jason stalked Batman during Arkham City. After fighting Jason in Arkham Knight, you can find a billboard in his headquarters with all the research he did on Batman after his fake death. He got pictures of Batman collaborating with Tim when Tim dropped off the line launcher, among others. This was ultimately the culmination of his rage towards Bruce, as he got proof that he was replaced as Robin. This is the only evidence we have for this though, as there are no hints to Jason even being in Arkham City during the game's events. Though he was one of the Asylum escapees during Joker's takeover, so we know for sure he would be out by then. Season of Infamy Prometheus. Yes, Prometheus was planned to be in Season of Infamy DLC pack. After only appearing in Arkham City as a wanted poster and bio, he was never seen again. So it looks like Rocksteady had planned to bring him back in the ultimate way for Season of Infamy. Unfortunately, that's all we know. because the only evidence we have to back this up is a single line of text, likely in the game's code, that references him. I believe this image is specifically the code for the Most Wanted mission wheel you can access at any point in the game, as it has a bunch of other details from other Most Wanted missions listed. And as we can see, Prometheus is listed among the other Season of Infamy villains, and apparently Black Mask, with DLC all listed above them, implying that they were all meant to show up for Season of Infamy, or at least some kind of DLC pack in the future. But it looks like Prometheus and Black Mask ended up cut, and the remaining 4 were bundled as the Season of Infamy we all know. Again, nothing is known about what was cut, this text is all we have to know of its existence. Buy me a beer. This is a reference absolutely nobody should have found in Arkham Knight, but since this is the internet, of course someone has. It can be found on a payphone in the parking structure on Miyagani Island, and reads, "You're not seriously able to read this, are you?" I mean, the font is really small, like really tiny. It's hard enough to be able to read this in the original 2048 by 2048 texture, which I have made smaller by now. Damn man, that is impressive. Catch me later, I'll buy you a beer. This is just a developer having a little bit of fun, putting something absolutely nobody should find in the game and just being a bit of a troll. I wonder if the first person to find it ever got their beer though. Part 7. Below the Iceberg. Lost Arkham City Demo Footage Showcase. Well, as the name implies, the footage for this entry is indeed lost. However, back in 2011, not long before Arkham City was officially released, Sefton Hill apparently went on to Jimmy Fallon's show and let the Desk Smacker play a demo of Arkham City. The only evidence that this even happened are a couple of articles and Facebook posts saying that the event simply took place. The only photo I could find was this simple screenshot in a Game Informer article covering the event, which honestly looks like someone just photoshopped Batman on the screen. But that is definitely Jimmy Fallon holding a controller, and that is definitely Sefton Hill next to him, so I'm inclined to believe this is real. Unfortunately, this is seemingly the only thing that remains of this episode, as despite being listed on the show's Wikipedia page, it appears to be erased from the internet entirely. If anyone has a taping of this episode somewhere, you have to find a way to get it online, because this is some seriously impressive lost media we are all desperately needing to see. Arkham Asylum's map had 3 islands. Early 3D models from the Arkham Asylum Alpha show that, yes, Arkham Island was originally going to be Arkham Islands. It looks like one would house the main intensive treatment building and I believe the gardens, though it might also be the visitor center. Another would house what looks like the mansion, and the last would be the lighthouse mentioned earlier, implying it was going to play a much bigger role than just being a quick explorable area. I'm very glad it was changed from 3 islands to 3 sections, those being Arkham North, East, and West. It made the island a lot more manageable, though it certainly would have been cool to see this much larger Arkham in some capacity. Arkham subreddit going insane. That is an understatement. The Arkham subreddit has devolved into pure madness, and it doesn't appear to be stopping anytime soon. It went from discussions of lore, fun clips, and things you'd expect to see on a subreddit, to the most nonsensical jokes and shitposts constantly trying to one-up each other. At this rate, it's not a community, but a random assortment of memers just shooting the shit and getting away with it like absolute champions. Some of the most popular running jokes at the time of recording include, "Is he stupid?" "Any advice?" "Man." And the infamous, "I can use the power winch," which has even made its way into the depths of YouTube comments. If you see anything, and I literally mean anything Arkham related on the internet, you will see a comment that says verbatim,
"The bomb's payload is exposed. I can use the power winch to trigger a controlled explosion."
This subreddit is really just doing its own thing and completely getting away with it. It's not even about Arkham anymore, just whatever superhero jokes they feel like coming up with next. I know they're gonna flood this video, so go ahead and spam your memes in the comments, guys. They're good for the algorithm. Beating up dev team in Arkham Knight credits. In a Reddit AMA with Sefton Hill, he said that they originally planned to have a combat level where you got to beat up the development team. The idea was that you got to beat up the dev team in combat as part of the end credits, and anytime you knocked someone out, it would go into slow-mo, zoom in, and show what they did on the game. I agree that this would have been an incredible addition that I would have absolutely loved to play through, but unfortunately they ran out of time and couldn't implement it. Which is a shame because Sefton said that this is one of the few things he really wished they could have gotten in. Me too, Sefton. Me too. Cancelled movie. There isn't much information for this one, but supposedly back in 1999, Warner Bros. Wanted to make an animated movie simply titled Batman Arkham. It would take place after the events of their previous, incredibly successful movie, Batman and Mr. Freed's Sub-Zero, and would follow Batman and Robin containing a mass escape on Arkham Island. The only reason given for why this movie was cancelled is that WB was too focused on making Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. However, many of the plot elements in this scrapped movie were eventually used as important plot points in the Arkham franchise, so it's really not all bad. But that's really all we have. It was planned, it was cancelled, and it was later adapted. Not much else to say. Jason planned to replace Batman. This is a very sound theory about Arkham Knight that explains Jason's plan after killing Batman. Using wall clip mods, it was found that there is a hidden red hood symbol in the Arkham Knight's base, which doesn't mean anything at a first glance, but it really does. This symbol was placed here before Jason was redeemed and started helping Batman, while the other red hood symbols, namely the ones in the movie studios and outside the depot, are there after Jason was turned. This implies that Jason had a plan to become Red Hood before Bruce redeemed him, meaning in his original plan, after Bruce was dead, he would have betrayed Scarecrow and the other villains, becoming a vigilante to take up Batman's place. And in retrospect, this makes a lot of sense. Jason isn't a villain, he just absolutely despises Bruce and wants him dead more than anything for abandoning him. He took the necessary steps in recruiting all these villains because he knew they would all be required if they wanted even a chance at killing Batman. We even see that he has the all-important Red Hood under his helmet, perfectly set up to take on his new identity. He knew the impact Batman was having on Gotham and knew it needed a defender, he just didn't want it to be Bruce. We know he holds no ill will towards anybody else from his interview tapes where he is incredibly kind to Barbara and even asks how Alfred is. He just wants revenge on Bruce. It would have been poetic justice in Jason's eyes, as he would replace Batman much like Batman replaced him with a new Robin. The ultimate revenge plan. Nightwing appearing out of thin air. This is a glitch that Orange Brought himself found and uploaded some time ago. The quick explanation is that after completing the Killer Croc mission in Arkham Knight and returning to the airship, Nightwing appeared out of nowhere on said ship and just started vibing. He wouldn't say anything, his appearance would match his beat-up look after getting captured by Penguin, and he just kinda exists now. He'll follow you around as Nightwing does, and even resetting isn't enough to get rid of him. Extremely rare Easter egg that represents Bruce's regrets? Probably not. In all likelihood, it's just an error that's incredibly difficult to replicate, so nobody else has posted it. Shiva's death sparked the League War. Another theory for us to cover, this time on Lady Shiva. So far, her only appearance has been in Arkham Origins and its Initiation DLC. She's one of the few characters to be excluded in every way from Arkham Knight, and hasn't even had an appearance in any comics either. Even smaller characters like Electrocutioner and Anarchy had mentions in Arkham Knight, but Shiva is nowhere to be seen. The theory goes that since she's associated with the League of Assassins, being close associates with Nyssa as shown in a quick flash during her introduction, she would have known about Raish's plans for Arkham City. However, like Nyssa, she disapproves of Raish's over-reliance on the Lazarus Pit, so both sat out for those events despite Arkham City being possibly the largest plan the League had ever enacted. This was likely seen as an act of treason by Raish, who had Shiva killed after his revival to show what happens to defectors. This would explain why Nyssa acts alone with the League defectors, since she was the only one from the League listed as Shiva's associate. This was the breaking point for her, and she left to start the Civil War. This is a decently sound explanation for why Shiva just flat out disappears from the saga after her brief appearance in Origins, though is definitely using a lot of assumptions to make its point. I'd say it's certainly possible, but definitely not a guarantee. Christopher Lee as Hugo Strange. When the first trailer for Arkham City dropped, many people believed that Hugo Strange was going to be voiced by Christopher Lee. It's an understandable assumption to make. I mean, just listen to that commanding voice.
Extraordinary, isn't he?
However, this was not the case, as he was actually played by Corey Burton. But the connection actually goes deeper than that. because Lee was the first actor to play Count Dooku in Star Wars Episodes 2 and 3. Meanwhile, Burton played Dooku in the Clone Wars animated series. So the connection is perfectly understandable for some people to have made, and for those who never knew this fact, now you can't get it out of your head.
Well done, Master Kenobi. You are a worthy adversary. I cannot say the same about your young apprentice.
Shut it down. By the end of tonight, I will be a hero, just like you, Batman.
Arkham Asylum cape showing damage in Arkham Knight. If you played Arkham Knight with the original Arkham Asylum skin on, you likely ran into this visual bug. The cape will show damage as you progress through the story, but only when you eject from the Batmobile, and after a few seconds, it will magically vanish. And that's really it. Weird glitch, but it doesn't really mean anything, and from what I know, it might be patched out now, so it matters even less. Arkham Knight Batman fighting like Joker. During the final Joker battle of Arkham Knight, Batman becomes far more violent in his takedown methods. As if those brutal moves to defeat the various Jokers weren't enough, there's another, much more subtle way that shows how Batman is becoming Joker. His moves will occasionally change to resemble Joker's fighting style from Arkham Asylum. It's very easy to miss, since you're probably more focused on surviving and taking down Jokers than looking at how Batman is kicking him in the nuts, but the moves are there. The biggest tell that they're Joker's moves and not just some brutal Arkham Knight animations is that Batman's limbs will wildly flail out, like Joker's did in Arkham Asylum. It's a shame that they couldn't implement these animations in other areas of the game and that they only appear in the final battle, especially when they're overshadowed by how brutal the takedowns are. Having them sprinkled throughout the rest of the story would be another great way to show Batman's slow deterioration into Joker, rather than the fast swap to brutality in the final battle, but I'm so glad they're there nonetheless. Early controls. This is an image for an early control scheme for Arkham Asylum, and might I say, this is one of the worst things I have ever seen. So apparently, instead of being able to naturally transition between how you play on a whim, you would have to manually swap between engaging in combat or Predator with the triggers. What? Why? How even? You would apparently be able to grab at any time with X, A would only be able to perform actions, no running whatsoever, B would put you in cover but only in Predator, and Y would activate Forensics, aka Detective Mode, because the bumper was occupied by your gadget slot. There's something called a Predator Cam, which you get by clicking the left stick. It seems the only thing that survived was the gadget system on the D-pad and the look function on the right stick. There isn't even a punch button! I am genuinely baffled by what this control scheme implies, and am relieved beyond all comprehension that this isn't what they went with. This would have been an entirely different game. Clayface was supposed to impersonate Talia. Apparently this is true. At some point in development, it was discussed that Clayface would impersonate Talia, and that's really all we know. The only evidence to this was a picture posted on the Arkham Wiki, but to my knowledge, that photo no longer exists. Now the only evidence for this is a single line on the wiki saying so. Apparently there were some unused models in City's files, but they were never used. It's really weird, but doesn't really mean anything since it's cut content. Jason killed Bane. In the Arkham Knight comics, Jason, as the Arkham Knight, burnt Bane alive before shooting him in the head multiple times to kill him. He then presented his body to the other supervillains. So this is questionable because it contradicts what we know from the Gotham City stories in Arkham Knight. In those stories, Bane went through Titan withdrawal after Arkham City closed. Wanting to get himself clean and looking for a fresh start, he returned to Santa Prisca, where he bore witness to a bloody turf war. He ended up killing dozens of drug lords and saving countless lives in doing so. After which, his next objective was to destroy Peñadura, the prison he grew up in. And that's where the story ends. This comic implies that Jason killed him, which brings up a point we'll be covering in a later section. Just trust me that this will make some modicum of sense later. Earth 2 skin appearing in Xbox Marketplace. Apparently, the Earth 2 skin in Arkham Knight is a PlayStation exclusive. But as if that wasn't enough, Rocksteady would occasionally taunt Xbox players by having it randomly show up on the Xbox Marketplace. If you thought you caught a lucky break, nope. Installing it has absolutely no effect, so you're all shit out of luck. Not that it matters to me, since I don't use skins anyway. Croc killed Anarchy. Yet another interesting theory that tries explaining why Anarchy isn't present in Arkham Knight. I mean, Rocksteady themselves acknowledging his existence and how well he would have fit into the chaos-ridden Gotham of Arkham Knight multiple times, both with thugs asking where he is and with the evidence bio in the GCPD. So why didn't they include him? Well, it's possible that he was killed by Croc. There are a lot of Anarchy symbols present on walls in Arkham Knight. They're basically everywhere. However, there's one area in particular that holds something interesting. There's a tag out the back of Panessa Studios, near a warehouse that players have been trying to find a purpose for years. This tag is placed right below a ledge with a missing guardrail and some marks on the wall. The theory goes that Anarchy was using the aforementioned warehouse as a hideout, and was out tagging this wall here, then climbed up to tag the wall above as well. Unfortunately, he was doing so very close to Croc's lighthouse, and the beast was hungry. Croc leapt out of the water, clawed at Anarchy, creating these claw marks in the wall and breaking the rails, then grabbed him, jumped back in the water, and eventually ate him. This is possible, but so convoluted and unlikely, it's easier to believe he's just locked up with the feds somewhere. I mean, these are definitely not claw marks in the wall. These are claw marks. This is just black paint. The railings are a little harder to explain, but honestly, it's Gotham. Someone probably just fell through them while leaning for a smoke break because they rusted off or something. Fun theory, but very unlikely. Unused character trophies. There are a couple of unused character trophies hidden within the files from Arkham City and Origins. They include an Arkham City inmate, two-faced thugs, Mr. Sickle, an armored Tiger Guard, an unmasked Batman, Joker sitting in a chair, a reporter, Tiffany Ambrose, Black Mask's girlfriend, and some reused assets from Arkham City. It's weird that some of these weren't used, especially the Sickle one, since he's a full-on boss we face in the game and the solution for a riddle. Why wouldn't he get a trophy? The unmasked Batman one makes sense both for being cut and where it came from. It makes sense they'd cut it since we have trophies for both Bruce and Batman and can fill in the blanks. But it actually comes from the cutscene where Bruce is removing his mask, such as when he's first putting on the Batsuit and where Talia removes it to give him a kiss, so it makes sense they'd need multiple models for this. And although it makes sense why Tiffany's was cut, I'll just say Black Mask has some good taste. You can't fault me there. Professor J. Southgate. This is most likely another pseudonym for Joker, as it appears on letters that he most likely typed up that can be found around the asylum. The most notable one can be found here in the Visitor Center, which reads, "Dear Sir or Madam, I'm writing to inform you that your relative is loony and will be confined to an inhumane floating cage in some crazy dungeon. You have no legal recourse in this decision and may be liable for all costs incurred for the treatment of your psychotic family member. Best regards from all of us at Arkham Asylum Rehabilitation Services. Have a nice day. The Joker and Pals." Signed, Professor J. Southgate. Just because of the Joker and Pals at the bottom, this letter was absolutely written by Joker, though it's possible that Professor Southgate is an actual doctor in Arkham Asylum and Joker just stole the name to write up this letter. Either way, this letter is pretty funny, if not a very difficult thing to find since it's so blurry in the actual game. Alfred audio in Arkham Knight Detective Mode. According to the Arkham Wiki, some of the background noise that plays when Detective Mode is active in Arkham Knight is the voice of Alfred taken apart and jumbled up. It's unknown what audio specifically has been used, or if this is even true to begin with. Nobody seems to have made a video descrambling it or trying to recreate it with Alfred's lines, so this point really doesn't matter. Batman Live 2011. No substantial connection to the games here, but it's on the iceberg, so I must mention it. This was a UK stage show back in 2011, which seemingly only ran for a single year, as all activity for it ceased before 2013. The only real connection to the Arkham series is that some of the costumes, namely Joker, partially resemble their Arkham counterparts. But it's not really something we need to talk about because the Iceberg creator himself said it doesn't have to do with the franchise. Man-Bat in Arkham City theories. Back during the days of Arkham City theorizing, people were expecting Man-Bat to show up because of a few Easter eggs in the church. Before entering the bell tower or sniper's perch, there are some chalices in the corner filled with presumably blood, along with a dead rat not too far away. People interpreted this to be Man-Bat's doing, because, who else would drink blood and kill rats for it? Unfortunately, we now know that Man-Bat didn't even come into being until the events of Arkham Knight, so it couldn't have been him in the church where Langstrom hadn't even transformed yet. This kind of leaves everyone scratching their heads as to why this was even included, but I guess we'll never know now. XE Suit Alpha Version. Apparently, before the Cold Heart DLC even launched in Arkham Origins, most of the files for the XE suit were already in the game. It was a textureless version of the suit, but one that still had all the thermal upgrades usable in the main campaign. Some players were able to access it through mods, though no footage currently exists online. It's crazy that this much of the suit was already in the game 6 months before the DLC would launch, but that is apparently the case, so good on them for being so ahead of the game. Damian Wayne hidden in Arkham Knight files. Back when Arkham Knight released, one Reddit user was able to look through the game's files and found data about potential DLC skins to be added down the line. Their list had a bunch of items, and to this day you can still follow the file pathway they used to see the items for yourself. One item that stood out was a Damian Wayne suit for Robin. As I'm sure all you suit nerds know, this cosmetic was never released, and is still nothing more than a few lines of text in Arkham Knight's files. Interestingly, there was concept art made for this suit, so it was indeed planned at one point. I guess they just decided against it for no apparent reason. Hidden Debug Riddle. In Arkham Knight, players can enter a code into the debug menu to see a secret riddle the devs left behind. The code is on screen now. It's hard to see because it just flashes on screen for a second, but the riddle says, 1, 2, 3, riddle me this. Why oh why should you never see this? Because it's debug text, yo! This is such a fun addition that only the most hardcore fans who are deliberately going through the files are going to be able to see. But it's so cool they did it. From my understanding, this debug was implemented to test riddle pop-ups that display when exploring the overworld, so this text was left behind as a nearly unfindable Easter egg. This also technically means that Batman can never solve all the riddles in Arkham Knight, since there's no solution to this one and it only pops up for a fraction of a second. I do wonder if there's actually a solution somewhere in the code or if this is only for the pop-ups. Either way, it's a great little Easter egg that shows just why I love games so much. Joker influenced the Batmobile's design. Joker implies many times throughout Arkham Knight that he's been influencing Bruce's decision-making for a long time. He put violent ideas into his head, which ultimately made him put full-on guns on the Batmobile. Bruce was smart enough to put in contingencies to make sure they were never used on humans, but the fact remains that Batman was influenced enough by Joker to put guns on his car. This shows that Joker has been in the back of his mind for a long time now, and he wasn't just a development of the fear toxin. It really was from his blood infecting Batman in Arkham City. The Lost Asylum Cage. On several monitors in Arkham Asylum, there is security footage of a cage in an unknown part of the asylum. This footage is reused in Arkham City and Origins at different angles, showing the cage is hanging over some kind of pit. The cage appears to be in the extreme isolation wing, due to the other cages maybe being in the background, and all the light shining on this particular one. However, what keeps me from believing this is the case is that the extreme isolation cells look like this, with absolutely no changes between them. This is not the same type of cell, which just adds more to the mystery of the whole thing. There are definitely similar cells in the background and they're hanging, which means it should be in extreme isolation, but those cages are completely different from the actual cells, so it just can't be that. Maybe these are early renders of the extreme isolation wing and they just kept them to add a bit of atmosphere. It's possible and is frankly my best theory on the matter. Part 8. The Deep Ocean. Prototype ROM of Arkham Asylum for Nintendo DS. Apparently, there's a downloadable DS prototype for Arkham Asylum. It was meant to be developed by Full Fat Studios, but never saw the light of day, not unlike the scrapped Wii version mentioned in Part 1. In fact, it seems to be following a very similar design to the Wii port, taking place not in the asylum, but out in Gotham City. The small amounts of gameplay I could find on YouTube are very incomplete. It looks like Batman is the only thing actually working in this demo. The thugs wouldn't even move around, let alone react to your attacks. But from what I can gather, it looks like a 3D beat-em-up style game where you would run around and, well, beat up thugs. Batman appears to have a large quantity of smoke bombs and some batarangs at his disposal. He can sneak around and can even differentiate between punches and kicks, something he was never able to do in the entire saga. It's weird that this piece of media existed and we just never knew about it, so was practically lost to time. It was so incomplete that we don't even really know what kind of game it would have been. Would the stealth aspect have played an important part? Would it have been more detective-like game? Or would it play like Origins Blackgate and be a Metroidvania? We'll never really know because this game is practically lost to time. Scarecrow's Blood Bucket. These are supposed remnants of cutscenes included in the alpha build of Arkham Asylum, which feature an early design of Scarecrow looking very similar to his appearance in Batman Begins, with a bucket full of blood. Unfortunately, these stills are all we got, but one can only imagine where he got all that blood from and what he was going to use it for other than painting this statue. I frankly don't really want to know, but it's apparently a thing and now it will haunt your nightmares tonight. Hope you aren't watching in the dark. Arkham City Old Menu Screen. We all know Arkham City's iconic menu, right? I mean, it's so good Arkham Origins had to copy it. With the almost still shot slowly panning around before suddenly speeding up and showing a new scene of Batman beating up some thugs. Seriously, it's so good! Well, it wasn't always going to be that cool. Originally, it looked a lot more like Arkham Asylum's. As can be seen in the background of an interview with Sefton Hill, the menu features Batman just sitting on a gargoyle, as he does when you first boot up City's menu screen. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Except that not only does this screen never progress, but you can see Batman's cape and head moving. This is very similar to Asylum's boot-up screen, where Batman is just standing on a perch, wind flowing through his cape. I'm very glad they changed it. It works for Asylum, but the epic scale of Arkham City honestly demanded a more epic menu screen. This was just not good enough. Gotham by Gaslight Prototype. Back in 2012, some random video showed up on the internet called Gotham by Gaslight, video game, prototype footage. All it really is Batman walking around a dark, foggy world with a few NPCs scattered about, and that's about it. This was a prototype made by Day One Studios, most well known for the Fear series, and that's all that ended up coming of it. This project was never greenlit, so this small prototype and a tiny bit of concept art is all we have of a potentially great project. For those unaware, Gotham by Gaslight was a one-shot comic where Batman is sent back to the Victorian era and tracks down Jack the Ripper. This could have been an amazing game, and although the prototype is incredibly limited, it shows the potential art style and mood this game could have had. One thing's for sure, they had the cape physics down. But even besides that, there's a very eerie nature throughout the whole demo, with the gothic architecture and the fog covering the entire landscape that would have lent itself beautifully to a full-fledged game. Most notably though, it could have been a real detective story rather than the beat-em-ups we've come accustomed to with the Arkham series, and could have provided a much more unique experience. Lots of people were clamoring around this game getting made, but like I said, it was canned before even being greenlit, so this small demo footage is all we got. Split timeline after Arkham City. The quick answer to this entry is that the comics screw everything up. Basically, slightly different events play out depending on if you read Arkham City sequel comics or Arkham Knight prequel comics. Frankly, the comics are pretty consistently the biggest sources of broken continuity, so I think it's more than fair to say that these things are pretty much all non-canon. Can we at least agree on that? Okay. There's a lot of details I really don't have the time to go over because there are so many comics and I haven't read any of them prior to making this video. And I frankly do not want to dedicate 27 hours of my life to reading these comics to find tiny inconsistencies for small entry only a fraction of people are actually going to see. Just know that the comics are kind of stupid sometimes, and it's better to get your lore from the games. If you want the details yourself, go read the comics. I'm not going to do it. This video is already 62 pages long. Batman laughing during Cloudburst fight. This has yet to be confirmed, and only has a single video with quote-unquote proof, but supposedly when you fire on the Cloudburst during its fight, you can hear Batman give a little chuckle in the Batmobile. This is the only documented footage on YouTube and could very well be faked, but if someone else wants to take the time to recreate this scenario and see if it exists, be my guest. If it's real, it's yet another subtle detail that shows how much Joker is really taking over Batman's mind at this point in time, just like a bunch of other details from Arkham Knight. Your console films your Man-Bat reaction. No, it does not, but this was something director Sefton Hill wanted to implement. Quote from the man himself on a Reddit AMA. One feature I'd love to have gotten in was linked to a Man-Bat surprise in Arkham Knight. We had planned to activate the Xbox/PlayStation camera and record everyone's reaction to being man-batted, so you could share it with your friends. Unfortunately, we just ran out of time. This would have been a hilarious implementation that I would have loved to see. However, I can obviously see problems arising from it, most notably the issue of privacy. Not everyone wants to see a playback of themselves, even if it would be shown to the player before being uploaded. But also, it would require players to have a camera accessory with their console and have that accessory pointed at them during gameplay. Again, while it would be cool, it's highly illogical and has a lot of problems that I'm ultimately glad they weren't able to implement it. 2007 Arkham Asylum Alpha build in deleted sector of WB hard drive. The story is a little hard to follow, but stay with me on this one. Some people recently found a leaked WB dev hard drive. On it was an alpha build of Arkham Asylum, which they sadly couldn't extract all in one piece. All that survived were some textures, models, animations, a few weird and dark cutscenes, and a leftover Urban Chaos Attract video, whatever that might be. But yeah, someone took all this data and made a mod pack that can restore some of the original aesthetics from the Alpha Arkham Asylum, most notably among them being Batman himself. And my god am I glad they abandoned this design, because this looks pretty stupid. One of the more interesting changes for me personally was the gadget UI, because, again, this looks pretty stupid. We've got the Batarang looking more like a buzzsaw than a boomerang, the explosive gel looking like the damn shark repellent, the Batclaw looking like a Spy Kids gadget, the cryptographic sequencer literally just being a key card, and the line launcher requiring 2 hands for some reason and looking nothing like the one Keaton used in '89. We've even got some character trophies, most of which look pretty much the same, except for Scarecrow having green needles rather than the orange ones we all know, and Gordon absolutely not pulling off that fedora. I'm so glad they changed all of these things, cause holy crap do they look dumb. If for some reason you want to see all this stuff in your game, you can download the mod yourself. But like, why would you want to do that when Rocksteady put so much effort into making literally everything better than all this alpha stuff? Batman is a killer. No, he isn't. This is in reference to an old video by the game theorists explaining some of the science behind things you shouldn't be doing in Arkham City. Basically, they prove that since thugs never wake up after being knocked out, they're either dead or in a deep coma. Cool, except this is also a game where time only moves forward when you move forward. So the fact that they don't give it up literally doesn't matter, because, you know, no time is progressing. Fun theory, no disrespect, I love the channel, love you guys game theorists, but missing a key fact that a lot of other open world games do not suffer from. Bruce Wayne died at the end of Arkham Knight. No, he did not. Seems to be a running theme for this section, isn't it? People theorize that Bruce died at the end of Arkham Knight, but not for the reason you might think. This has nothing to do with the Nightfall Protocol, and instead is related to Joker taking over Bruce's mind. People theorize that when Joker took over at the end of Arkham Knight, specifically when we cut back to the real world and see Joker on the slab rather than Bruce, that the Bruce Wayne and Batman personas occupying Bruce's mind were killed, gone, deleted from existence. Their personas no longer occupy Bruce's body, only Joker, which is why Joker begins seeing his fear being forgotten when injected with Scarecrow's toxin, and that fear of being forgotten can only manifest because of Batman, which is why he comes back. Notably, however, Bruce does not, so people believe that the Bruce Wayne side of Batman is simply no more. This is an interesting theory, but one that is incredibly unlikely, because we still see Bruce talk to people as Bruce, not Batman. He talks to Dick and Selina as Bruce, saying goodbye to them not as the hero Batman, but as the man underneath, Bruce. He solemnly talks with Alfred as they prepare to destroy the manor as Master Bruce, not as Batman. Hell, he removes the cowl before returning to the manor, showing the world that he is Bruce Wayne and talking to Gordon again as Bruce, not Batman. Ultimately, it depends on if you believe Bruce was kicked out of his own mind by Joker or was just pushed to the side and had to fight to take it back. The fact that Bruce still has personable, human moments after conquering Joker in Arkham Knight shows that it isn't just the Batman under that mask anymore. Bruce is still there as well. You will become as one. We end our incredible journey on a fairly recent discovery in Arkham Knight. There's a theater on Miagani Island with a rose and a puddle of blood outside the door. While this isn't the Monarch Theater, people understandably made a connection to the Wayne's murder. However, what many people missed is directly across from the door. Some large, bold text that reads, "You will become as one." People understandably believe that this was referencing how Batman and the Joker were going to become as one by the end of the game. However, this text has no relation to Joker's hallucinations. It's there at the start of the game just as it is after Bruce overcomes his fear at the end, meaning this text is there no matter what. You could argue that since it's placed right next to a reference to the Wayne's murder, that it could be saying Bruce will soon join his parents' death. Ultimately, it's up to your own interpretation, because we don't have a concrete answer. But here's my take on it. I personally believe this is saying that Bruce Wayne and Batman are going to become as one. The Batman's legend dies tonight, as he is unmasked by Scarecrow and must end his vigilante legacy by hanging up the cowl and becoming something greater. Bruce Wayne dies during the Nightfall Protocol, hence why this text is placed in such a way that it references his parents' death. While we know he doesn't really die, to the public, he is believed to have been killed during the explosion, as reported by Gordon during the end credits scene. For all intents and purposes, both Bruce Wayne and Batman are dead this Halloween night. They need to become something worse to defend Gotham, something that can only come true by rising from the ashes of both Bruce and Batman. They did become as one by becoming the demon we see after attaining true Nightfall. And to show the true Nightfall connection even more, consider this. The alley you find this text in is directly across the street from the alley where we see the Demon Bat. We know this is the same theater as the one on Grand Avenue. This billboard replaced the Black Canary Club, and we can see remnants of this sign in the corner of the screen. The alleyway simply went through an architectural change between the ends of the protocol and now, hence why we can't see any identical buildings to the ones that are actually back here, and why it resembles more of an alley than an open area. And wouldn't you know that directly across the street from this location is the very theater and wall text we've been referencing. And in this very location, Bruce Wayne and Batman would become as one. And I think that's as good a place as any to end it, chaps. Thank you for somehow watching all the way through. If you would be so kind, please like and subscribe. This video took so freaking long to make. And if you made it this far, drop a comment to boost me in the algorithm. If you can't think of anything to say, just comment hullabaloo for a free heart. Anyway, once again, massive shoutouts to the creator of this iceberg, Orange Brought, both for creating the templates for this video and for helping me understand some of the more obscure entries. Plus giving me an iceberg that he never officially released, so I got special access. Heh. Brought, you are the real hero of this video. Go give him all the love you can on the original post and on his YouTube channel, links in the description. Shoutouts as well to Derpston P. Derp, a modder who added a bunch of entries and is the primary reason for the iceberg being in its current state. With that in mind, do all the YouTube stuff because I need to treat myself to a good old-fashioned pizza delivery. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later, chaps.